the mythical empire of civilization. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126, Sea of Fire burns all troops. Just when Qin Yu was worried, a player invaded and caught him off guard. The sudden change in front of him made him confused. The white-faced army, which was originally running madly towards Langcheng, suddenly stopped. A dazzling white light suddenly flashed in front of them. After a long time, the white light dissipated, and an army of nearly 1,000 people appeared in front of the white-faced army. The two sides looked at each other for a moment, and the three forces on the field were a little confused. The team that suddenly appeared seemed to be mainly spearmen, supplemented by shield soldiers and archers. The total number of people could be more than 800, and almost everyone was wearing leather armor. The strength was far beyond Zhao Yi's. One of the leading men was commanding his team in a panic. It was obviously the invading player named Luo Zhao. Dang, 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 dang. The strange sound of leather drums sounded rhythmically from afar. The white-faced army that stopped suddenly became agitated in an instant. The other side obviously regarded the army that suddenly appeared in front of them as an enemy. The two teams collided instantly, and the invading player had no time to react. For a moment, blood and body parts were scattered all over the sky. Poor Qin Yu smiled and sighed softly, and then a touch of red light flashed in his hand. Flame rain flowing arrows. After using it, the attacks of the long-range troops under his command will be accompanied by fireworks. Once the place touched by the fireworks is extremely difficult to extinguish, and it has a terrifying high temperature. The prop lasts for half an hour, and the effect disappears after half an hour. The fireworks disappear. Shoot! Qin Yu shouted loudly. As the voice fell, he silently took out the prop card and used it by default. Thousands of archers had already put their arrows on the bowstrings. Following Qin Yu's order, thousands of bone arrows instantly cut through the sky. From the mid-air, the arrow feathers condensed into a wisp of immortal flames and then ignited the entire arrow. The whole sky was instantly covered with a layer of fire rain and then swept towards the position where the two armies were fighting in front. What followed was not just this round of arrow rain, but round after round of endless arrow rain. Countless arrows turned into high temperature fire rain and covered the battlefield ahead. The arrow rain carrying terrifying high temperatures fell into the densely packed figures like a burning firewood falling into a large area of hay. Wow. The fire instantly shot up into the sky, igniting thousands of people into a sea of fire. Qin Yu looked at the battlefield that had turned into a sea of fire, his eyes filled with surprise. This prop is so powerful. As Qin Yu observed, he discovered the reason why this prop was so effective after a while. The most important thing is these white-faced people who are like zombies. They pounced on the player's team densely, with almost no gaps. Secondly, those white-faced people are like dry firewood. When they encounter a raging fire, they burn like crazy. No wonder the bone erosion tribe only shows up in winter. These monsters are afraid of fire. The shrill screams came one after another, just like the howling of thousands of ghosts, which was particularly creepy. Patriarch, this victory is won, Jiwoo said with a smile. Qin Yu nodded in agreement. He didn't expect this ending, but it can be said that the white-faced man in the player made him successful. One helped Qin Yu deal with the white-faced man, and the other helped Qin Yu deal with the invading players. An immortal fire burned both sides to ashes. Qin Yu got rid of the two evils in one fell swoop, and also got a very rich reward. Qin Yu looked at the many figures swaying in the fire in front of him, and the miserable howling sounded in his ears, and he felt like laughing heartily. God really helps me. Ha 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 ha. Qin Yu excitedly punched the wall several times with his fists. By the way, Patriarch, the drum sound just now was in the back. Should we send troops to get rid of it together? Jiwoo suddenly spoke, as if he remembered something. Well, I would have forgotten if you hadn't said it. Send a message to Yuming. It's time for the 500 cavalry to show their swords. Yes. At this time, the thousands of troops on the battlefield have been covered by the raging sea of fire transformed by rounds of high temperature fire rain, and it is almost a foregone conclusion that they will be completely destroyed. Even if some of the white-faced men with tenacious vitality continue to rush towards Dragon City, there will be countless catapults carrying blazing flames like meteorites from outer space that will hit them swiftly. There are also hundreds of wooden spears wrapped in flames that will be shot down swiftly from the city wall. Almost no enemy can enter the distance of 50 meters outside Dragon City. It is like a natural moat that isolates all enemies there. Countless corpses were smashed to pieces and finally burned to ashes by the raging flames. At this time, located 300 to 500 meters west of the battlefield, a witch from the Bone Erosion tribe wearing an animal skin coat, 3 feather crowns on his head, and teeth painted black, is looking at the sea of fire in front of him with a sullen face. There was still a trace of fear on the livid face. 5,000 white-faced men. Gone, all gone. The awakening of the Bone Erosion god will be delayed for a few years. The witch of the Bone Erosion tribe looked a little crazy, seemingly unable to accept the changes in front of him. Witch, spring is coming, and now the decline has been revealed. Let's hurry back to the western swamp. The leader of the Bone Erosion tribe advised. Return to the swamp. The witch of the Bone Erosion tribe looked a little scared. He thought of the loss of the 5,000 white-faced men and his own fate. The Bone Erosion god would punish his mistakes with boundless fear, and he would be deprived of his witch identity and pressed into the abyss of 10,000 insects. No, can't go back, can't go back. The thin witch of the Bone Erosion tribe frantically ordered the remaining nearly 1,000 white-faced men to continue the attack. He waved the bone staff in his hand, and a burst of bloodlight enveloped the white-faced men behind him. Nearly 1,000 white-faced men suddenly grew rapidly, and in the blink of an eye they became 2-meter tall white-faced giants. This is the nutrient to be offered to the Bone Erosion god. How can you use it? The leader on the side was horrified, as if he had caused a horrible disaster. A cold gaze suddenly enveloped him, and the bone-eating witch waved the bone staff in his hand. 2 white-faced giants actually came over and forcibly held the leader, and then tore him to pieces. The scene was immediately filled with blood. The 2 white-faced giants directly tore the leader into several pieces, and threw them into their mouths, chewed them, and swallowed them. The Bone Erosion tribe witch had no expression after watching it, and his eyes were fixed on the front again. He firmly believed that this sea of fire would not last too long. After it disappeared, everyone in the city would become the nutrient of the Bone Erosion god. There will be thousands of white-faced people to supplement it. Just as the Bone Erosion tribe which was imagining madly, there was a burst of dense horse galloping sounds from the ground. I saw a group of hundreds of cavalrymen bypassing the sea of fire and rushing over. On the war horses, the tall and strong knights wearing hard leather armor took out their long bows and put arrows on the bowstrings. Shoot. Chapter 127. Achieve the unity of all people. With a loud shout, arrows pierced the sky, and a high temperature fire ignited in the air again and quickly shot towards the enemy 100 meters away. The witch of the Bone Erosion tribe waved his bone staff angrily at this time, and nearly 1,000 white-faced giants behind him immediately galloped and rushed towards the cavalry. Fire 2 rounds and volley, then Dieter. Yuming ordered loudly, while sitting on his horse. 500 cavalrymen fired 2 rounds in a row, and thousands of arrows turned into a dense rain of fire, and covered the rushing enemies. The moment the arrows hit the white-faced giants, the sky-high flames instantly ignited. However, if they cannot be killed instantly, their charge cannot be stopped. Yuming would naturally not be stupid enough to wait for them to approach, but turned his horse's head and retreated directly. The white-faced giants behind could only scream while being burned, while chasing after the cavalry and eating dust. Qin Yu stared at the white-faced giants behind the cavalry with burning eyes. It seems that these are also creatures constructed by an evil supernatural power. If ordinary soldiers are asked to deal with them, the losses will be great. Tell the cavalry to retreat to the city. I'll deal with it. Qin Yu said calmly. Ji Wu nodded, and immediately ordered people to send a retreat signal. Qin Yu stood on the high wall, the cold wind blowing his hair in the air. He stared calmly at the white-faced giant rushing over from a few hundred meters ahead. Bury it here forever. The calm voice was like the whisper of the god of death. It was mixed with violent momentum. Suddenly, thousands of feet of golden light shone around, and the ground rumbled wildly. One by one, golden vines as thick as elephant legs rose from the ground. 10. Hundreds. Thousands. 10,000. Almost instantly, tens of thousands of golden vines covered with thorns rose into the sky, tightly wrapping nearly 1,000 white-faced giants in front, and then constantly shrinking, and the sharp vines pierced into the bodies of the monsters one by one. Qin Yu's eyes froze, and he noticed the thin old man leaning on a bone stick in the distance. A vine instantly passed through the ground, and came directly behind the old man, then broke out of the ground, and soared into the sky. The vine turned into a giant python, and tied him up tightly, and then threw him into the cage, made of thousands of vines. The other part his face flushed, and his expression of fear was, as if he was facing an abyss. Shoot! Qin Yu suddenly shouted loudly. Thousands of arrows, wrapped in raging fire, instantly penetrated into the vine cage. Shrill screams continued to come out of the cage, and finally only lasted for a moment, before turning into ashes and disappearing. The surrounding vines also drilled back into the ground in an instant and then disappeared. You. A shocking shout suddenly came from behind Qin Yu. He turned around and saw that the army and tens of thousands of people in the city were shocked by the thousands of vines that imprisoned the enemy and the rain of fire that burned thousands of troops. Tens of thousands of tribesmen knelt down in front of Qin Yu with reverent looks on their faces, shouting the name of the tribe leader. You. System prompt. Congratulations on achieving the achievement of the people's hearts. The settlement's people's hearts have reached the peak, and you will receive a bonus of plus 100,000 civilization points and a property bonus. The speed of forming a civilized country will increase by 100%, lasting for 1 year. System prompt. Player number 80,955 Luo Zhao has died. His army has been annihilated, and this invasion war is over. System prompt. You have won this invasion war, and rewards are being issued, based on your performance in this game. System prompt. Congratulations on your S+ rating for this game. System prompt. Congratulations on getting 1 bronze beginning 5-star treasure chest, 36,500 civilization points, and plus 100 rank points. The player will get all the civilization points of the opponent if he dies. System prompt. The invasion war is over. You can choose one of the following rewards. Primary invasion order *1 /30-day free war card *1. At this time, Qin Yu had returned to the meeting hall. Now not only was the danger from the bone erosion tribe resolved, but even the invasion war ended with a result he could not imagine. Thinking about it now, Qin Yu didn't know whether the player's luck was too bad or his own luck was too good. However, there was nothing to worry about. Now not only was there no danger, but he also received an S+ rating and a 5-star award. In addition, he also received an achievement of the hearts of all the people and was rewarded with 100,000 civilization points. Qin Yu was still a little excited. He felt that the recent pressure seemed to have disappeared all of a sudden. It was just a pity that the army brought by the player did not leave a prisoner, nor did any armor or weapons. All of them were burned by the fire, and even the ashes were blown away by the wind. Shaking his head, Qin Yu didn't care much. He silently clicked on the system prompt just now, then selected the 30-day exemption card and used it directly. System prompt. You have successfully used the 30-day exemption card. During the duration, other players cannot invade your world. When you actively invade other players, the effect ends. Qin Yu looked at the prompt and nodded with satisfaction. Now he can develop steadily for 30 days. After using the exemption card, Qin Yu then looked at the highlight of this time. The beginning of bronze, a 5-star treasure chest. That is to say, 5 items can be opened from it at once. Qin Yu silently clicked it, and an exquisite and mysterious bronze treasure chest with carved patterns appeared in front of the light curtain. The 5 golden stars on it represent the grade. Qin Yu stretched out his fingertips and lightly touched it. With a click, the treasure chest on the light curtain was slowly opened. Prompt. You opened a bronze beginning 5-star treasure chest. Hint. Congratulations on getting the rare card textbook *1/blue quality. Hint. Congratulations on getting the rare card coin furnace *1/blue quality. Hint. Congratulations on getting the resource card 100 key and blood pills *1/green quality. Hint. Congratulations on getting the building card 100 Arts School *1/blue. Quality hint. Congratulations on getting the weapon card Fine Iron Machete *1/green quality. Damn it. Even Qin Yu, who thought he was a civilized man, had to exclaim damn it. Would the explosion rate of high quality items in a 5-star treasure chest be higher? 5 rewards, 3 blue and 2 green. This is more than twice as high as the probability of the civilized Qianqi. When the two are compared, the civilized Qianqi is simply like a black-hearted businessman. However, Qin Yu only complained a few words. Although the probability is not high, the quantity is large and full. He has been accumulating a lot of civilization gold coins these days, and this war with the Bone Erosion tribe and invading players has earned him an intermediate winner's gold coin. Chapter 128 Purple Quality Military Talisman. Regardless of the intermediate winner's gold coin, Qin Yu chose to check the functions and introductions of the items he had just drawn. Textbook. It can engrave the words that have appeared in this world or the words recorded in the owner's memory. C. It can engrave no more than 3 kinds of words, and the people who read this textbook increase their literacy efficiency by 200%. Qin Yu looked at the function introduction of this item and couldn't help but say that it came at the right time. He was just worrying about how to create and publish text. With the textbook, he can directly engrave Chinese characters into it, and the direct reading of the textbook can increase the literacy efficiency by 200%, which accelerates the popularization of text. After putting down this strange item, Qin Yu looked at the next reward. Coin Furnace. You can consume civilization points to edit the currency template. You only need to immerse your consciousness in it and engrave the desired currency style in it. Then select the material and fill in the material after editing to continuously produce currency. This is also a magical artifact that is very helpful for the development of civilization. The emergence of currency can not only speed up the process of private ownership, but also speed up the formation of the country and the development of the trade economy. As long as Qin Yu is strong enough and the monetary system is stable enough, he can control the economy of the entire grassland. Qin Yu put the things away with satisfaction, and then looked at other rewards. Kizudan. Produced from the martial arts world, it is a resource for martial artists to practice. Taking it can increase a lot of ki and blood power, but it requires constant exercise to accelerate absorption. 100 Arts School. It can be built at any location. No matter what kind of skill, as long as it is taught in the school, the student's comprehension ability will increase by 100% and their learning efficiency will increase by 100%. Fine Iron Machete. A machete forged from fine iron, a two-handed weapon, characterized by its heavy and solid characteristics and extremely sharp blade. Qin Yu checked all the remaining 3 items in one breath. Kizudan can be distributed to the members of the Dragon and Tiger Guards. The machete is a two-handed weapon. Just give it to Yao Xian when you find time. After all, he is the leader of the Dragon and Tiger Guards, and Qin Yu needs to increase his loyalty so as to improve his control over the Dragon and Tiger Guards. As for the Bai Academy, the effect of this building is also very good, but there are not so many skills to be taught on a large scale at present, but I don't know if the text is counted. After checking all the items, Qin Yu put the reward into the system warehouse and then began to order some urgent things. In order to fight against the Bone Erosion tribe, Qin Yu previously mobilized the archers from the 3 cities of Panzan City, Xianggu City and Coal City. Now he needs to send the archers back as soon as possible to prevent accidents there. There are 100 archers in Panzan City, 200 archers in Coal City, and 100 archers in Xianggu City, a total of more than 400 people. After sending them back, there are only 600 archers left in Langcheng, most of whom are recruits. Of course, the 500 cavalry can also serve as archers, but they are more trained in horseback archery. After passing on the order to mobilize the troops, Qin Yu prepared to draw the civilization gold coins he had accumulated in recent days. There are 7 in total, including 1 intermediate winner's gold coin, 3 primary winner's gold coins, and 3 primary loser's gold coins. Of course, the latter loser's gold coins were deliberately brushed out. In a trance, Qin Yu suddenly came to the familiar cliff. He held a handful of gold coins in his hand, raised his feet close to the cliff, waved his hand, and threw all the gold coins in his hand out with all his strength. Hoo-la la. The gold coins collided with each other in the air as they were thrown out, and then 4 fell into the pool on the left, and 3 fell into the pool on the right. The 4 gold coins on the left fell into the gold pool like small meteorites, splashing water more than 10 meters high. After one of them fell into the outermost layer of the pool water, the huge force was still not reduced, and it suddenly broke the barrier to the second layer. Then an extremely dazzling purple stream arose from the pool water. Delivery. Delivery. Qin Yu looked at the purple light, and at this time even the items shining with blue light around him were not attractive. If you want to know how valuable the purple item is, just look at the king's cauldron. Qin Yu opened the prompt with an expectant look on his face. You consume 1 intermediate winner's gold coin and obtain the extraordinary first level primary shadow guard talisman X1. Purple quality. You consume 1 primary winner's gold coin and obtain the item June Blizzard X1. Blue quality. You consume 1 primary winner's gold coin and obtain the item Speed is of the essence X1. Green quality. You consume 1 primary winner's gold coin and obtain the building primary animal stable X1. Blue quality. You consume 1 primary loser's gold coin and obtain the building wood pulp paper mill X1. Green quality. You consume 1 primary loser's gold coin and obtain the item 4 seasons harvest X1. Blue quality. You consume 1 primary loser's gold coin and obtain the building linen clothing weaving workshop X1. Green quality. Looking at a series of prompts, Qin Yu rubbed his forehead dizzy and then took the lead in clicking on the function introduction of the purple items. Primary Shadow Guard Soldier Talisman. People who meet the requirements can be bound to the Soldier Talisman. Soldiers bound to the Soldier Talisman will gradually awaken to become extraordinary first level Shadow Guards. Shadow Guards have the ability to hide their entire body, walk silently, have ghostly figures, and be hard to avoid sharp edges. Qin Yu looked at the simple introduction above and had to say that the 4 abilities above alone were extraordinary, very suitable for surveillance, assassination, poisoning, secret protection, and even spying on intelligence. It seems that the strength is still at the level of extraordinary first level, but it seems that there are talent requirements to become a Shadow Guard. Secondly, Qin Yu estimated that there must be quantity requirements. After all, this is just a simple introduction. The real detailed introduction still requires Qin Yu to take the item out of reality to view it, and even more detailed should be observed in daily life to understand the abilities of the Shadow Guards. In short, the value of the item drawn by an intermediate winner's gold coin is far more than its difficulty to obtain. After reading this purple soldier talisman, Qin Yu clicked on the effect introduction of the 2 war props at the back. June Blizzard. A blizzard will occur at the designated location and quickly lower the temperature of the surrounding area. The blizzard will last for 3 days. When the time is up, the surrounding temperature and heavy snow will slowly disappear according to the original weather conditions. Speed is of the essence, used by designated troops to reduce their marching time by 50% and reach the destination more quickly. Both items are considered war items. The first one is more practical and is best used in the summer in Qin Yu's world. Once an invading player appears, Qin Yu may be able to use this item to freeze the other party to death. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129 Attributes Increased. Among the remaining items, there are 3 buildings and 1 prop. Qin Yu is very familiar with the primary animal pen. He has 3 of them. One of the remaining 2 buildings can produce paper from wood raw materials, and the other can produce linen clothes from materials such as flax, and even collect natural dyeing plants to dye clothes. Qin Yu is very satisfied. In his opinion, anything that can enrich the products of civilization is important and has great value. The remaining prop is of good quality, a blue quality prop. 4 seasons harvest. After using it, the crops and grains planted on the cultivated land under the command of the civilization can instantly reach a harvest state. Note, the maximum does not exceed 100,000 acres. This prop is interesting. If calculated based on a yield of 500 catties per mu, using this prop can instantly harvest nearly 50 million catties of grain, or 500,000 stone of grain. 1 stone is equal to 100 catties. It is enough food for 100,000 people to eat for a year. However, Qin Yu currently only has 50,000 acres of land, which does not reach the upper limit of the prop. If he uses it himself, he will inevitably suffer some losses. However, it can be sold to players in the mall, or kept as a favor, or used as a trump card for SQ when encountering a food crisis in the future. After putting the things away, Qin Yu looked at the sky. It was just noon, and the meeting hall was gradually filled with people. After lunch, Qin Yu took 2 hours to meditate. This is a kind of practice taught by Yun Yin that relies on the spirit seed in the body as a medium to improve mental power. Only when the mental power is strong can the power of the totem be used continuously, and meditation through the spirit seed increases not only mental power. Although Qin Yu doesn't understand it yet, he can be sure that it is definitely not just mental power that is increased. Shaking his head, Qin Yu sank his mind, slowly calmed down, and emptied his mind. After a long time, the surrounding scene changed, and he actually saw the golden spirit seed in his mind. At this time, as he took the initiative to control the spirit seed, to communicate with the totem, a drop of golden liquid began to drip from the spirit seed in his mind every 10 minutes. This doesn't look like mental power. Qin Yu was stunned. Every time a drop of golden liquid dripped into the sea of consciousness, he felt a tingling sensation all over his body. His head became clear, and the blood in his body seemed to be boiling. Is this the golden energy stored in the king's cauldron? After a long time, Qin Yu finally realized that he was absorbing the golden energy in the king's cauldron into his body along with his spiritual power. Previously, he could only temporarily borrow this power by relying on the connection between him and the king's cauldron. But now the growth is to absorb this power into his body so that he can fundamentally possess power and improve his physical and mental strength. In Qin Yu's view, the king's cauldron has been worshipped by tens of thousands of people since its appearance, and the source of this golden energy is generated through the continuous worship of countless people. This is somewhat similar to the legendary power of faith or incense power. The energy level of this kind of thing is not low. After all, these are often energy systems that can only be obtained by reaching the status of God. Qin Yu knew that, because he was the master of the king's cauldron, he could control it, borrow it, and absorb this energy through it, but others were different. They could only use the spirit seeds to catalyze a little bit of pitiful power. The level between the two was also quite different. Qin Yu absorbed it for about 2 hours. There was already a fist-sized golden puddle in the center of the sea of consciousness. He slowly stood up and stretched his waist, and suddenly there was a slight crisp sound of crackling from his body. It seems that the strength has also increased. Qin Yu felt that his whole body suddenly felt particularly full of strength. Name: Qin Yu. Gender: male. Age: 21. Strength, Constitution, Agility, Intelligence, Command, Combat Talent, One-handed Weapon, Talent 1, Conquer people with virtue, A-level medium. Effect: increase the probability of recruiting surrendered generals by 80%. Talent 2, know people with wisdom, A-level lower. Effect: can check the loyalty value of the people under your command at will. Skills: battle sword, primary riding. Sure enough, the attributes have improved a lot. Qin Yu looked at the light screen in front of him with a surprised look. Strength was originally about 2.5 stars, but now it has become 3 stars. Constitution has directly increased from 1.5 stars to 3 stars, and the agility has increased less, but the intelligence has increased by about 1.5 stars. These are the changes that Qin Yu has made in just a few days since he merged with the spirit seed. However, Qin Yu didn't have much time to practice in a day. He walked out of the meeting hall quickly and whispered to the guards at the door, "Prepare the car and go to the North City." Yes. The 2 guards bowed respectfully and left. A moment later, a carriage stopped in front of Qin Yu. He raised his leg and climbed on it. Then the guards began to drive the carriage all the way to the North City. Qin Yu planned to use the rest of the day to install all the buildings and produce as much as possible. As for tomorrow, he needed to go to Daoist. One is about the progress of farming and construction in the Four Seasons Fairy Valley. He wants to go to the field to investigate in person, and the shortcomings need to be changed as soon as possible. The second is that the cooling time of the prospecting gold shovel is up. This means that he can use this thing to find another mineral in Daoist. It's best to be iron ore. Qin Yu has begun to look forward to it. The carriage drove all the way into the North City and finally stopped in front of the animal pen. There are many animal pens here, and cattle, sheep, horses and black wolves are all kept separately. The largest number of them is grassland sheep, which now number more than 13,000. The second largest is cattle, with more than 3,000 heads, not counting the more than 1,000 heads in the Four Seasons Fairy Valley, which adds up to more than 4,000 heads. The number of horses is about 1,500, of which more than 900 can be used as war horses, but more than 500 were taken away by the cavalry. The number of black wolves has also increased a lot, reaching more than 270. Now that another animal pen has been drawn, Qin Yu estimates that the reproduction rate of black wolves will double again. Primary animal pen, types of wild animals that can be tamed. 1. Once set, it cannot be changed. Number of wild animals in the current pen. 0 current taming progress. 0%. Current reproduction rate, plus 50%. Current physical growth rate, plus 50%. Current status recovery rate, plus 50%. Tip: the primary animal pen can spend civilization points to increase attribute bonuses. Every 1000 civilization points can increase a single attribute by 10% for 1 month. Qin Yu placed the newly drawn primary animal pen next to the other 2 animal pens. Looking at the prompt below that could increase attribute bonuses, Qin Yu opened the panel and took a look at his current civilization point balance. Chapter 130: The ability of the Shadow Guard. Current civilization points. 159,600. Isn't this time I can be considered a rich man? Qin Yu looked at the balance and laughed. This was the most civilization points he had ever had, nearly 160,000. With a wave of his hand, he directly increased the 2 important attributes of the 3 buildings to 100%. Primary animal stables, 3 buildings, current reproduction rate. 100%. Current physical growth rate. 100%. Each 10% increase in attribute requires 1000 civilization points. It takes a total of 10,000 civilization points to increase the 2 attributes from 50% to 100%. 3 buildings means 30,000 civilization points, but Qin Yu didn't feel bad at all. With this attribute, the number of black wolves will at least triple or 5 times in a few months, and the number of wolf cavalry will be several times higher by then. At present, there are 100 wolf cavalry, which is not a small number. Although half of them are new recruits, they have been training new recruits for so long, so they also have a certain combat power. What's more, the new recruits are high quality soldiers from the militia training camp, and their attributes are not low at all. After placing the animal pens, Qin Yu went to the cavalry training ground again. At this time, there were still about 5 or 6 days before the expiration of the tenfold training gain card. The 500 cavalrymen in the training ground were galloping on their horses in the wide field. Because of the existence of stirrups, saddles, bridles and other horse equipment at this time, the riders can already perform many difficult actions on horseback. For example, horseback archery, riding a horse, while drawing a bow, and shooting arrows on the horse, and finally with a whoosh, the sharp arrows hit the target. Qin Yu observed for a long time, and found that everyone's accuracy was not low. Although the number of rings was not very high, almost no one missed the target. If it was only a month of training, it would definitely not be able to achieve this effect, but with a tenfold gain card, it would be different. 1 month is equivalent to more than 300 days of training, and the effect is naturally very effective. The season is gradually getting warmer now. Although the snow on the grassland has not completely melted, it seems to Qin Yu that it will soon. When spring comes, he will start to implement his large-scale plan to conquer the grassland. In order to improve control, the 4th, 5th, and 6th cities have to be built on the grassland. Qin Yu had a headache when he thought of this. He lacked talents. He really lacked talents. Now there were few people who could be used. The 3 cities of Zion Valley, Pantan, and Cole had taken away 3 of his more versatile talents. It was really not easy to send people who were suitable to be the city lords to build more cities. Shaking his head, Qin Yu was silent for a moment and finally got on the carriage and left the north city all the way back to the inner city. After returning to the inner city, Qin Yu found a suitable location for the 3 buildings, including the Bai School, the wood pulp paper mill and the linen clothes weaving mill. At present, only the paper mill had materials running among the 3 buildings. Qin Yu directly sent someone to notify C2 to let him instruct a team to work on the paper mill. In addition to producing paper for writing, the paper mill can also produce soft toilet paper. This is why Qin Yu was anxious to produce many inconveniences since the time travel made Qin Yu cry secretly. Now that he can finally use soft toilet paper, who can understand him? After installing the building, Qin Yu took out the purple quality military talisman. This is a piece of black jade ornament, which looks like a jade pendant. It is engraved with mysterious patterns and has a faint purple light on the surface. Primary Shadow Guard Soldier Talisman. Level: Extraordinary Level 1. Number of people who can be included: 100. Current number of people: 0. Inclusion requirements: military power is above 3 stars, agility is above 3 stars, and each Shadow Guard needs to consume 1000 civilization points to condense his Shadow Guard equipment. Shadow Guard abilities: concealing the whole body, walking silently, ghostly figure, hard to avoid the edge, flying over the eaves and walls, sharp ears and eyes. Qin Yu was stunned. What a guy. He still has to spend a sum of civilization points to buy equipment for him. If it is full of 100 people, then it will cost a full 100,000 civilization points to condense equipment for him. If this equipment is not worth the price, Qin Yu's mentality will definitely collapse. However, when he saw the ability below, his face became excited again. The so-called 6 abilities, to put it bluntly, are invisibility, silent walking or running, extremely fast movements like ghosts, difficult to avoid assassination attacks in the dark, climbing walls, hearing far, seeing far, and not affected by the night. It is a perfect elite level assassination and intelligence service. However, this restriction is not very good. Only those with 3 stars in both force and agility attributes can be included in the military talisman. Qin Yu's eyes turned, and he thought of the Dragon and Tiger Guard. Prepare the carriage. Let's go to North City again. Qin Yu shouted immediately. After getting on the carriage, the 2 teams of guards followed the carriage and came to North City again, and finally stopped at the gate of the Dragon and Tiger Guard courtyard. This is a large courtyard of more than 800 square meters, with 7 or 8 independent wooden houses in the courtyard, and the courtyard in the middle is responsible for training. Patriarch. At this time, Yao Zion saw a carriage stop at the gate of the courtyard and immediately stopped training and ran out to greet respectfully. Qin Yu waved his hand. I'll take a look at your situation. Everyone walked into the yard. At this time, the more than 40 Dragon and Tiger Guards in the yard had already chosen their own weapons. Some like to use bone knives alone, some like to use bone knives and shields, and even one person used 2 knives. The same was true for axes. Some people used a single axe, some used 2 axes, and some used animal bone axes and shields. Some people took a bow and a knife, and some took bone spears with knives or bows and arrows. In short, everyone's weapons were not uniform. This was the definition of a team, a strong elite team. You performed well, and I will reward you with something. Qin Yu smiled and patted Yao Zion on the shoulder, and then asked someone to take out a large iron machete that flashed with cold light from the carriage. Yao Zion was so surprised that he took the weapon from Qin Yu and immediately knelt on one knee respectfully and said, "Thank you for the reward, Chief. I will definitely live up to your high expectations." Qin Yu hurriedly helped him up and talked about business. "Don't be polite with me. Get up quickly. I will pick a few more people from you." Yao Zion was stunned. He still wants to take people. Seeing the other party's bitter face, Qin Yu couldn't help but comfort him. "Don't panic. I won't take many away." After saying that, Qin Yu began to collect them one by one with the military talisman. The purple light would flash on the ones that could be collected, and there would be no reaction on the ones that could not be collected. After a long time, Qin Yu looked at the 12 people picked out in front of him with satisfaction. These 12 people were all candidates who met the requirements of the military talisman in terms of strength and agility. Yao Zion, I will take these 12 people first. When the totem warrior awakens next time, I will give them all to you. Qin Yu smiled and patted Yao Zion on the shoulder and then left with the people. Chief, take care. Yao Zion watched the man being taken away with a helpless look on his face. Chapter 131 Luxurious equipment worth 12,000. The Dragon Tribe's military forces, even the blood-packed Wolf Riders, which had the smallest number of soldiers, now had 100 men. 12 of his 44 men had been taken away, leaving only 32 men. Yao Zion felt like crying, but had no tears. However, when he looked at the coldly shining fine iron machete in his hand, his eyes were filled with joy again, and he threw away the feeling of losing 12 men. After leaving North City, Qin Yu led the 12 men back to the Consciousness Hall. The moment these 12 men were included in the military talisman, their bodies began to change slightly. Their bodies became thin and well fitted, and their muscles were compressed very little but full of explosive power. They looked more agile. Their physical instincts and memories had increased a lot, and in addition, they had several special abilities. And their martial arts and agility attributes had reached the first level of extraordinary. It took 12,000 civilization points to condense the equipment for the 12 men. Qin Yu looked at the remaining 130,000 civilization points and did not hesitate at all. He spent them directly with a wave of his hand. After the 12,000 civilization points were used up, there were piles of exquisite equipment on the ground. First, there were 3 sets of clothes. One set was a nightwear, a set of chainmail, armor for various parts, and a set of purple-black brocade clothes, on which was engraved a Teng snake with a gloomy and cold aura. Teng snake was a winged snake-like mythical beast that was once recorded in Chinese mythology. Han Fizi 10 Mistakes said, it was said, that in the past, Huangdi gathered ghosts and gods on Mount Te, driving an elephant chariot with 6 dragons, Bifeng and axe, Chiao in front, Fengbo sweeping, Yashi sprinkling the road, tigers, and wolves in front, ghosts, and gods behind, Teng snake lying on the ground, phoenix covering it. Qin Yu didn't know what the relationship between Teng snake and Shadow God was. What could he guess, based on just a piece of brocade clothes? But it's true that the Teng snake engraved on the brocade is really lifelike, with a majestic look that gives people a slight sense of oppression, and more importantly, the cold and chilly atmosphere on it, as if being stared at by something terrifying. In addition to 2 sets of clothes and a set of armor, there are also 2 iron scimitars and 2 exquisite and small fine iron daggers. The handles of the daggers are also engraved with a smaller Teng snake. In addition, there is a sleeve arrow, a sleeve sword, also made of iron, and a Teng snake. Qin Yu observed for a long time, and found that it was actually a thing for climbing over the city wall, that is, a flying claw. Throw it on the top of the wall and fix it, and then you can climb up the wall by pulling the rope. But this Teng snake claw is different. Just press the mechanism lightly, and it can be shot to the destination instantly, and then the snake mouth bites and fixes it fiercely, and it can also be used to shoot and injure people instantly. In addition to the Teng snake claw, there is also a Yunlong tube that can instantly spew out a large amount of smoke according to the introduction, blocking the enemy's sight. The last item was an exquisite hand crossbow with a range of only over 100 meters. It was equipped with 20 short crossbow arrows with fine iron arrowheads and poison. Qin Yu looked at the 12 piles of equipment on the ground, which were as big as a small mountain. He was silent for a long time. He had something in his mind that he didn't know whether he should say it or not. This is really a professional assassination force. Qin Yu really didn't know if he could survive if someone sent such a force to assassinate him. It's really bad. It's hard to survive. Qin Yu looked at the 12 people in front of him with a cold look and said seriously, from now on, the 12 of you are a member of the Shadow Guard. You only need to obey my orders and abandon your previous names. From now on, you are called Shadow First, Shadow Second, Shadow Third, Shadow Fourth. From Shadow First to Shadow 12. We understand. Everyone responded. Qin Yu nodded and asked several people to start distributing equipment, and each person immediately put on a set. As for the night clothes, he took them back and put them away. He only wore the armor and the tank snake suit on top of it when he was with Qin Yu. The next morning, the meeting hall was full of people. Before breakfast, Qin Yu planned to hold a clan meeting to implement the development plan for the next month. Qin Yu sat on the high platform and said slowly, "In the past few months, the tribe has developed rapidly, and now there are nearly 20,000 people. The military and civilian population of Langqing alone is more than 10,000 people, so I plan to continue to expand the city." C2 stood up and bowed and asked, "Chief, if the city is expanded, what should be done with the original city wall? How much do we need to expand it?" "The south wall will be extended to the south lake, the east wall will be pushed out another 4 miles, and the north and west walls will also be pushed out 4 miles. All of them will be built with rammed earth walls. In addition, a narrow tower will be built every 5 meters on each side of the city wall. All wooden platforms will be removed. From now on, we will only defend against enemies on the city walls and arrow towers." Qin Yu slowly told the plan. This expansion is several times larger than the last one, with an area of almost 5 square kilometers, or 5 million square meters, which can accommodate a population of hundreds of thousands. Of course, if the civilization changes from public ownership to private ownership, it will not be able to accommodate so many people. After all, if each family has one house, it is impossible to have 7 or 8 people living in a 30 square meter wooden house. However, it is possible to build a 2-story or even 3-story building, with multiple households in one building, which can also save a lot of land. "Chief, this matter is of great importance. I'm afraid that we need to mobilize a lot of tribesmen to expand it." C2 couldn't help but say when he thought of the request made by the chief, "It's okay. We don't lack food now. We have enough food. We have been stockpiling materials for a long time. We also have all kinds of construction tools. Fortunately, most of the tribesmen are idle now, so we mobilize them all. At least 3,000 people can participate in the expansion, right? If not, we can work in shifts. The city wall must be completed within a month. After the completion of the city wall, we will give priority to building the arrow tower, and then demolish the original inner and outer city walls. The inner city area will be expanded 300 meters in all directions. The original outer wall will be demolished and not used." Listening to Qin Yu's request, C2 felt a little pressured for a while, but it was not impossible to build the outer wall in a month, and the number of people mobilized was as high as more than 3,000. He bowed respectfully and agreed. Qin Yu nodded with satisfaction, and then proposed to build a shadow guard courtyard between the clan leader's residence and the meeting hall. It must be a place for the shadow guards to train and live in. After saying this, Qin Yu looked at Yuming and Ji and said, "Give 500 cavalrymen, name it Dragon Cavalry Camp, and appoint Yuming as the captain." 5 days later, together with the Blood Covenant Wolf Cavalry, you will annex the surrounding tribes of all sizes. Hide your strength for a long time, and when the cold winter is over, it will be the day when our dragon tribe dominates the grassland and builds a powerful country. "Yes." Yuming, Ji, obeys. The two shouted excitedly. The people around them were also excited. Think about it, the dragon tribe only had those 30 or so people at the beginning, but now it has grown to nearly 20,000 people. Chapter 132, Investigating the Fairy Valley and Searching for Minerals. Everyone's eyes could not help but look at the figure on the high platform. He was wearing dragon scale armor, carrying a fine iron sword on his waist, kneeling at the table, with his back straight and his posture dignified. He looked like he was intimidating without anger. It was an honor for the dragon tribe to have such a person born in it. Dominating the grassland was not nonsense, it was a sure thing. Everyone had their own ideas, and everyone wanted to do things well so as to be promoted, gain higher rights and better enjoyment. Just the threshold of this meeting hall had countless people trying to climb in with blood on their heads. Of course, in today's dragon tribe, those who are capable can be reused, and those who are incapable can hardly cross this threshold, no matter how much they pay. The tribes below are mixed, and many people want to seek power and position, so they approach the high-level figures of these tribes in the meeting hall to introduce them. Qin Yu naturally did not stop these things, but he would punish the incompetent and reward the competent. Over time, although the talents recommended to him were few and far between, they were of good quality. Qin Yu shook his head and looked around the people in the hall. More than 4 months had passed, and the number of people in the hall had increased from a few to nearly 20 people, and the meeting hall had also been expanded. These were all good changes, proving that there were more talents available, but they were still few for Qin Yu. At the same time, the desires of some people who had power were increasing. Qin Yu knew that he could not stop this kind of thing, but with the king's tripod, he could guarantee the loyalty of everyone. At the same time, desire meant competition, which was not simply a bad thing. After thinking for a while, Qin Yu began to give instructions regarding the construction of Four Seasons Fairy Valley and the search for new minerals. I need to go to Daoist in person, and the Imperial Guards will accompany me. After I leave, C2 will be responsible for matters related to the tribe members, and Yuming will be responsible for matters related to the army. Of course, if something goes wrong, you two will naturally bear the responsibility for it. Please be cautious. I understand. The two stood up and said respectfully, "The tribe meeting is over. Let's have dinner." Qin Yu's voice fell, and more than a dozen female tribe members came in from the outside, carrying bowls of delicious food, and placed them on the table. Qin Yu simply ate some to fill his stomach, and then stood up, and left the meeting hall. At the gate of the East City, 300 well-equipped Imperial Guards gathered at this time. Qin Yu originally wanted to bring only 100 people, but under the strong opposition of Ji Wu and the other three, he chose to bring 300 people for safety reasons. The total number of Imperial Guards was about 500. This time, he brought nearly 2/3 of the people. The purpose of this trip was to investigate the cultivation and construction of the Four Seasons Fairy Valley. After all, it is a grain-producing land in the future. The initial goal is to reclaim 50,000 mu, with an estimated yield of 800 to 1,000 jin per mu. It can be sown about 3 to 4 times a year, and the grain output is about 160 million jin, which can feed nearly 500,000 people. Of course, only 10,000 mu were sown in the first quarter, and the subsequent 50,000 were reported recently, but they have to be sown in the next time to be fully reclaimed. In addition to investigating the Four Seasons Fairy Valley, it is also a very important matter to use the prospecting gold shovel to find the second mineral. This represents the update of civilization weapons. If iron ore can be found, and Qin Yu has a coal mine, and then by some drawings about smelting from them all, he can produce ironware. At that time, both agriculture and military strength will be able to advance by leaps and bounds. This is a reason why Qin Yu is so urgent, but he still has to go to investigate the Fairy Valley first, and then look for minerals. As Qin Yu got on the carriage, the team began to move slowly towards the direction of Daoist. Since Qin Yu was the only one in the army riding in a carriage, it took nearly an hour to reach the foot of Daoist Mountain. The so-called Daoist Mountain is actually a huge mountain range, with hundreds of large and small peaks, mixed with woods, jungles, streams, mountains, valleys, cliffs and other environments. Coal City and Xianghu City are both located at the foot of the outer mountain, and Panzan City is located on the outer mountainside. Qin Yu couldn't help but think of the strange wall cave in Panzan City that can passively increase physical fitness and strength. I wonder if it would be better to cultivate spiritual seeds in it. After thinking for a while, Qin Yu shook and jumped off the car. He would know when he had time to try it. Now the most important thing is to go to Xianghu City to see the situation first. The carriage stopped at the foot of the mountain. Qin Yu led 300 guards into the forest on foot, moving all the way to the location of Four Seasons Fairy Valley. Now the snow in the forest has begun to melt, and many trees have sprouted green buds. Since it was still early in the morning, there was a little mist between the trees, and various flowers and plants on the ground had already shown their buds. Qin Yu looked at the surrounding scenery and couldn't help but sigh. I think it will be more beautiful here in midsummer. The people around him didn't say anything. After all, they had never lived in the mountains for a long time. Everyone listened to the sound of the breeze all the way, and an hour later, they finally arrived at the cave leading to the Four Seasons Fairy Valley. At this time, compared with a month ago, this place has changed a lot. The outside of the cave is full of watchtowers and arrow towers, and there are patrolling soldiers around. The inside of the cave has been dug a little wider, but not too wide. It is about 2 meters high and 2 meters wide. The siege equipment still can't be pushed in, and only 4 or 5 people can move in parallel. Patriarch. At this time, the patrolling soldiers around have recognized that it is a team of Imperial Guards, which also means that the Patriarch is among them. After all, the Imperial Guards are the personal guards of the Patriarch. Generally, where the Patriarch is, the Imperial Guards are there. A moment later, Yap, in a leather army uniform, ran out with 2 teams of soldiers. Patriarch, you came here without sending someone to inform us in advance. Ya said, a little embarrassed for neglecting the Patriarch. Qin Yu waved his hand. It's okay. This time I mainly came to inspect the fortifications of Xianghu City, the city construction and the most important arable land. Oh. Ya smiled slightly and said, then let's go in, and I'll report the situation here to you. Qin Yu nodded. Everyone walked into the cave. The cave, which was dozens of meters long, opened up a lot. After walking to the corner, it became 3 meters high and 3 meters wide. 2 low crossbow arrow towers outside the cave flashed with cold light and aimed at the corner of the cave. In addition, there were 10 catapults blocking the corner together. There was also a 3-meter high wooden wall outside the cave, with teams of archers standing on it. There were also dozens of arrow towers behind the wall. Almost all of the targets were blocked at the corner of the cave. Chapter 133 Extraordinary Ore Resources. There are hundreds of spearmen wandering around below. Once the enemy attacks, relying on the advantage of the narrow entrance, hundreds of soldiers can stop thousands of enemies. 2 large yellow bed crossbows and 10 catapults can instantly overturn the enemy's shield holding team, making it impossible for the opponent to resist the suppression of bows and arrows. If they dare to rush to the valley in trance, powerful spearmen will continue to stab out, forming a solid gun formation. Everyone walked out of the cave, and the gate of the pass in front was slowly opened. After passing through the gate of the pass, there was a pass wall connecting the peaks and cliffs on both sides. I think it is the second line of defense. However, wooden stakes are afraid of fire attacks, so it is better to change them into rammed earth walls when necessary. Chief, there are 2 passes in the Fairy Valley. Once the soldiers outside find the enemy team, they will retreat into the valley and push the boulders to the entrance as obstacles, leaving a height for stone bullets and bows and arrows to enter. A lot of hay will be laid in the cave in advance. If the enemy's offensive is fierce, they can also suppress it with fire attacks. Crossbows and catapults are responsible for breaking the formation. Spearmen are responsible for blocking the enemy, and archers are mainly responsible for suppressing the formation and shooting the enemy. If you want to break through the first pass, you need at least 1,000 people, and you have to pay a great price in casualties to have a little chance. Qin Yu nodded as he listened to Ya's introduction. The entrance to the Four Seasons Fairy Valley is unique. It is really difficult to break through the pass without siege equipment. Everyone passed through the second pass one by one, and the vision in front of them became wider, and all kinds of beautiful scenery came into view. Hundreds of wooden houses were scattered on both sides, and not far ahead was an endless black field. At this time, each group of 5 tribesmen led a working ox, and each group was responsible for 10 mu of land. At this time, the 10,000 mu of land had been reclaimed, and most of the cultivated land had begun to be sown, watered, and fertilized. Among these 10,000 mu of land, there are a total of 8,000 mu of rice, 1,500 mu of wheat, and the remaining 500 mu are medicinal materials. Ya introduced on the side. Qin Yu nodded and sighed in his heart. 3 months later, there were more than 7 million catties of grain again, which was almost twice the grain taken away from Zhaoyi. Qin Yu took everyone to patrol the valley for a small day. From the entrance, they walked for dozens of miles towards the depths of the valley. In the end, he estimated that the area of the valley suitable for reclamation of arable land was at least 50,000 mu, and the limit should be 100,000 mu. It is indeed a place of abundant grain production. Qin Yu estimated that the grain produced by the natural wonder of the Four Seasons Fairy Valley could feed 1 million people at its peak. At least it could support him to dominate the entire grassland. The more he observed, the more important the Four Seasons Fairy Valley became in Qin Yu's heart. The garrison forces behind must be increased, Qin Yu decided secretly in his heart. After checking, Qin Yu led the team to camp in the valley and rest for a night. The next morning, after having breakfast in Xianggu City, Qin Yu led the team to leave. They embarked on the road to find new minerals. A group of more than 300 people followed Qin Yu and wandered around in the mountains and forests. Qin Yu held a shovel shining with golden light in his hand, but he had walked for more than 10 miles and still had no reaction. Could it be because it was broken after being left for a long time? No. He was about to start doubting himself. The team followed Qin Yu all the way to the depths of the forest. Finally, after everyone had been wandering around like headless flies for 2 hours, the golden shovel in Qin Yu's hand responded. The golden light shone more and more, and a wave appeared faintly in Qin Yu's heart indicating the direction. Qin Yu led the team to follow the instructions in his heart and came to a cave. This cave is located halfway up the mountain. According to the instructions of the golden shovel, the minerals should be in this cave. Zhu Xiang, you lead a team of guards to clear the way and see if there are any wild animals living inside. Yes. Zhu Xiang bowed and then carried a fine iron axe and walked into the cave with 20 guards. This cave is quite deep. As everyone went deeper, the light became extremely dim, even affecting the vision. After a while, a bonfire was lit at the entrance of the cave. Zhu Xiang led the guards to pick up torches and go deeper again. The dark atmosphere made the guards feel a little uneasy. Should it be the end? No danger found. What is this? Everyone chatted in a few words, but Zhu Xiang suddenly noticed something that was faintly shining in the corner. It was a bright yellow stone with faint purple spots on it, and it was shining from time to time. Zhu Xiang squatted down and stretched out his hand to pick up a piece. The moment his fingertips touched the stone, he shrank back suddenly, and his fingers seemed to be stung by something. There's something strange about this stone. Go out and report to the chief. Bearded Bear quickly got up and led everyone out of the cave and told Qin Yu about the situation. You were stung by a stone? Qin Yu frowned and asked with a strange look on his face. Yes, chief, that stone is very strange and looks weird. Bearded Bear responded silently. Forget it, let's go in and take a look. Qin Yu didn't ask any more questions and walked in with the team. When he walked deep into the cave, the prospecting gold shovel issued a prompt and then fell into a cooling period. Prompt: the prospecting gold shovel has taken effect. Congratulations on obtaining a small thunder copper mine. Small thunder copper mine reserves 10,000 tons. Type: divine ore. Introduction: the copper mine that combines the ancient divinity and the power of thunder, thus forming the thunder copper mine, not only becomes harder, but also contains violent thunder power. Please mine with caution. Qin Yu looked at the bright yellow copper ores in the corner, which were covered with purple spots. Qin Yu silently extended his finger and touched it, then pulled it back. Yes, there is indeed lightning in it. His finger just touched it lightly for a moment, and it was as if he was stung by a big wasp. How can you mine it if you can't touch it? This is a difficult problem. According to the introduction on the prompt, if this thing is smelted into a weapon, it must have a passive special effect that can stun people. Qin Yu knew in his heart that this must be a good thing. It might be some extraordinary ore. How many weapons can be made with a reserve of 10,000 tons? As long as this kind of ore can solve the problem of avoiding electrocution to the owner, even ordinary people can equip it. Fighting on the battlefield, even a slight pause or flaw will threaten death. And suppose a long sword that can discharge electricity is slashed at, and the opponent is paralyzed by the electricity and loses the ability to resist. No matter how elite the soldiers are, or whether they are equipped with iron armor, they will be paralyzed by a sword and then die. Chapter 134. If you can't win, just cheat. Qin Yu asked someone to bring a stone shovel and then shoveled up the piece of thunder copper. After waiting for a long time, the thunder and lightning did not trigger. It seems that some non-conductive items can be used to isolate the thunder and lightning, which will not affect mining. This time they brought some stone picks, stone shovels, straw baskets and the like. It is okay to mine some exposed ores, but it is difficult to dig down. However, you can take these open pit ores back to smelt and forge a few mining tools before coming back to mine. With a series of clanging sounds, Qin Yu and the members of the Imperial Guard mined 4 baskets of thunder copper, which weighed about 400 kilograms. Let's go back first, Qin Yu said when he saw that the mining was almost enough. Everyone nodded and followed Qin Yu out of the mine. The clan leader is in trouble. Seeing Qin Yu walk out of the cave, they ran over and said, "Everyone be alert." Qin Yu ordered immediately. They came over quickly and pointed to the south. "Chief, there is movement more than 100 meters away, and the number of people is estimated to be around 20. Go and have a look," Qin Yu said softly. The S-gift is 1,000-mile ear that can hear sounds from far away, so Qin Yu believed it without a doubt. Everyone quietly moved more than 100 meters to the south, and Qin Yu hid behind a tree and poked his head slightly. The scene in front of him scared him. There were more than 20 people wandering around casually about 10 meters ahead. They were called people, but they were not really people. Although they had the same body as humans, they had a huge dog head. The small eyes revealed a fierce look, the ears were long and pointed, and the canine teeth were sharp. The more than 20 dog people were extremely strong, and they were all over 1.78 meters tall. Not only that, what shocked Qin Yu the most was that they were wearing leather armor and holding sharp bone spears in their hands. What the hell is this? Dogman civilization? Dog-headed people? No, dog-headed people are not so clean. Qin Yu shook his head. These dogmen did not look sloppy at all. He could tell that they were an elite. Suddenly, Qin Yu felt a cold gaze coming at him. "We've been discovered." What a terrible perception. Seeing that the team of dogman warriors in front of him immediately looked at them, Qin Yu exclaimed, "Strike first, kill them." With Qin Yu's order, the 300 guards behind him swarmed up instantly, raising their shields and bone knives. More than 20 dogman warriors saw that there were so many people around them, and turned around and ran without hesitation. And while running, they shouted, "Invaders! There are invaders!" Qin Yu chased behind and listened to the other parties shouting. He could actually understand it. Although there are some differences in language, as long as you listen to both sides more, you can understand that the sentence is actually saying there are invaders. "Stop." After chasing for a while, Qin Yu waved his hand and immediately stopped the team. The dogmen were obviously intelligent. Seeing that Qin Yu had more people, they did not choose to fight, but ran away immediately, shouting as they ran. This meant that there was more than one dogman team nearby. "Retreat first, we should not stay here for long." Qin Yu had a bad feeling in his heart, and hurriedly led the guards to run back the way they came. After a long time, the clan leader is catching up. They heard the movement behind him and shouted immediately. Qin Yu frowned, and after thinking about it, he immediately ordered everyone, "Line up to meet the enemy." The 300 guards obeyed the order, stopped in an instant, turned around, raised their shields and long swords in their hands, and faced the direction where the enemy was running. Qin Yu also drew out the fine iron sword at his waist and looked behind. Teams of well-equipped dogmen were running wildly in this direction, some holding bone knives, some holding bone spears, and even holding bows and arrows. Qin Yu frowned. These primitive dogmen were so intelligent. Even the bow and arrow were invented. However, he knew that this was not the time to sigh, so he immediately shouted loudly, "Raise your shields for defense." As soon as the voice fell, 300 guards raised their shields in front of them. At this time, the dogmen in the distance also shot the bows and arrows in their hands. The roar of the bowstrings vibrating rang out. It can be seen how powerful these dogmen are. The bows and arrows seemed to have at least reached the force of 1.5 stones, 150 kilograms. Hundreds of stone arrows mixed with bone arrows were shot over, nailed on the wooden shields wrapped in animal skins, producing a series of muffled sounds. Fortunately, the wooden shields used by the guards were relatively thick and wrapped in a layer of hard leather, so they were not penetrated by the bows and arrows, but even so, half of them were shot in. Everyone met the fierce eyes of the hundreds of dogmen, and they felt a little uneasy. After all, this was the first time they encountered an enemy who looked like a monster. Qin Yu immediately shouted loudly upon seeing this. "The enemy is nothing but a hybrid of wild beasts and humans. What's so scary about it? They are just chickens and dogs." When everyone heard this, their anxiety disappeared for the most part, and they regained a confident look on their faces. Yes, they have killed humans and wild beasts before, so what can a hybrid of the two do now? How can they be afraid of it? After resisting 5 rounds of arrows fired by the dogman, none of the 300 guards died. Only a few were slightly scratched, which was not a big problem. The dogman leader, who led more than 200 dogmen on the opposite side, was even more sturdy, with thick muscles with explosive power in his limbs, and 2 polished bone axes in his hands. Invaders. Kill. The dogman leader opened his bloody mouth and roared. More than 200 dogmen instantly raised their weapons and ran over. Release. Qin Yu suddenly made a gesture. The sound of bowstrings vibrating instantly rang out in the dense forests on both sides. The 300 guards saw dozens of short arrows appear out of thin air and shoot at the temples of some dogmen rushing in front. Then blood gushed out instantly, and more than a dozen dogmen fell to the ground. The rain of arrows lasted for 3 or 5 rounds, all of which accurately shot into the temples of the dogmen, directly taking away nearly half of the dogmen warriors. Qin Yu saw that the shadow guards in the dense forests on both sides succeeded, and immediately shouted loudly, "All troops charge! Kill!" The 300 guards had cold faces and murderous eyes. They raised their shields and long swords in their hands, and followed Qin Yu to kill. The 2 armies of different races collided with each other in the blink of an eye. Blood was flying, and screams came one after another. Qin Yu faced the leader of the dogmen on the other side, raised his hand, and slashed with a sword. The other side did not dodge, and a disdainful smile appeared between his canine teeth. 2 animal bone axes swung over, and hit Qin Yu's swung sword, causing his palm to go numb, and he retreated 2 or 3 meters. The long sword in his hand almost flew out. Seeing the smug smile of the dogman leader, Qin Yu was so angry that he cursed, "Damn it, you are strong, right? Look how I chop you up so badly that even your mother won't recognize you." As he spoke, a dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from Qin Yu's hand, and the dogman leader opposite him was stunned. Chapter 135. The Anger of the Dog King. Come and die. Qin Yu roared, raised the long sword wrapped in golden light in his hand, and killed him. Seeing this, the dogman leader immediately swung his double axes to block the long sword. This was the second collision between the two. The double axes chopped at the blade of the fine iron sword. The golden light on it flickered slightly, and the 2 animal bone axes shattered like glass. Qin Yu seized the opportunity, used the sword as a knife, raised his hand, and performed a set of combined sword techniques. In just a few blinks of an eye, 4 or 5 huge wounds gushing blood appeared on the dogman leader's body, and the pain almost made it faint. Qin Yu naturally would not give it another chance to react, but roared, "Go to hell." The sharp tip of the sword instantly pierced into the carotid artery of the dogman leader's neck, and the blood spurted even more. The dogman leader wanted to cover his neck with his hand, but he didn't even have the strength to raise his hand. In the end, he slowly fell to the ground and died. Qin Yu glanced at the scene around him, and saw that the Imperial Guards were actually at a disadvantage against the dog warriors. These dog warriors were not only extremely strong, but also had extremely high attainments in speed and combat skills. Each of them was like a veteran who had fought for decades. The angle of the spears in their hands was even more tricky, and each move went straight to the vital points, making it difficult to defend. The Imperial Guard's equipment did not have much advantage, and their strength and speed were not superior. Fortunately, the members of the Imperial Guards all mastered the art of war swords, otherwise even their combat skills would be suppressed. Qin Yu's eyes were cold, and he naturally couldn't sit still when he saw the casualties of the Imperial Guards. While ordering the Shadow Guards to attack and assassinate the dog warriors on the periphery, he swung his long sword and slashed at the dog warriors around him. Although the dog warriors were very strong and fast, they could not stop Qin Yu from cheating. Using the golden energy in the king's cauldron, the Han sword in Qin Yu's hand was as easy to deal with the dog warriors' weapons as tofu. Boom. Seeing that a man was almost stabbed to death by a dogman's spear, Qin Yu's consciousness moved, and a thick golden vine suddenly emerged from the dogman's feet and tied him up instantly. The warrior next to him did not hesitate at all, and instantly stabbed the bone knife in his hand into the chest of the tied dogman, then pulled it out with force, looking at Qin Yu with gratitude in his eyes. As Qin Yu used the power of the king's cauldron, golden vines emerged from the surroundings and tied up many dogmen tightly, making them unable to move. The surrounding guards seized the opportunity to raise their knives and beheaded the tied dogman. Even if the dogman's companions raised their knives to cut the vines on the tied companions, it would be useless. In the next second, 2 more vines would emerge to tie them up. The perversion made the dog helpless again. The angry eyes of many dogmen seemed to be spitting fire, but the final outcome was that they were beheaded one by one. Qin Yu took a long breath, supported the tree trunk with his hands, and tried hard not to collapse to the ground. Using too much power in the king's cauldron, when one is not strong enough, is also a very mentally draining thing. Especially this more tedious detailed operation is even more mentally draining. If Qin Yu did not use the golden power in the king's cauldron, he estimated that the imperial guards would suffer heavy losses today. Patriarch Ji Wu wiped the blood off the knife and then sighed. How can these dogmen be so strong? I have never seen them before. Qin Yu shook his head and said, I don't know. Let's count the casualties and go to Coal Valley to rest first. Ji Wu arched his hands and said, yes. Watching Ji Wu turn and leave, Qin Yu turned his mind and thought about things. Just now, those dogmen shouted invaders, probably because he and others broke into their territory without permission. But the divine copper mine was in it, and Qin Yu could not give up because of this. Once this always strange power is made into a weapon, its power must be impressive. His enemies are not only the natives, but also more terrifying and unscrupulous players. Don't think he's quite peaceful now, that's because it's only been more than a month since the novice period. And he hasn't joined any alliance, so naturally there is a very small probability to avoid conflicts with other players. Qin Yu is sure that once he joins an alliance, his civilization will definitely be attacked by the enemy alliance. Secondly, because he has never stopped using the free battle card so far, even if the players in the same war zone want to fight, they have no chance. After all, he is a newcomer who has not joined an alliance, so he is naturally a character with no background and no one to protect him, and his combat power is not bad, which also means that Qin Yu's civilization is also a fat sheep. He judged that some small alliances would be more interested in this. If they can't be absorbed into the alliance and the other party doesn't join the big alliance, then isn't it a fat sheep? Just focus on forming a team to rob him. This is also what Qin Yu expected after talking to Wen Zhao last time. However, Qin Yu was not too worried. If someone really coveted him, not to mention whether Wen Zhao would take action, his own strength should not be underestimated. However, this does not mean that Qin Yu did not have the urgency to improve his strength. He was determined to get the Thunder Copper Mine in front of him. What the hell, dog people, either surrender or die for me. Qin Yu's face did not change, but he made a decision in his heart. Chief, the statistics are ready. 16 soldiers were killed, 8 were seriously injured, and 36 were slightly injured. Carry the bodies back for a proper burial. Send the injured back to Longcheng to take Baiyu soup. The seriously injured will rest for a month, and the slightly injured will rest for 7 days. Qin Yu sighed. I understand. Ji Wu bowed. Let's go to Coal Valley to rest first. Following Qin Yu's order, the troops slowly moved towards the direction of Coal Valley. Only the dogman corpses whose leather armor and weapons were taken away were left on the spot. After a long time, many dogmen suddenly appeared on the spot, and they slowly dragged the bodies of their companions back. A dogman leader wearing brass armor looked at the dogman corpses around him with an angry look on his face. Revenge. Invaders. Revenge. Kill them all. The murderous cold words came out of the mouth of the dogman leader. After a long time, he returned to Panhu Valley with the dogman soldiers and the bodies of his dead companions. After returning to the valley, the dogman leader went straight to the depths of the valley. Deep in Panhu Valley, there is a stone palace with a long history that has never collapsed for thousands of years. This is the palace where generations of dogman kings live. I want to see the king, the dogman leader said coldly. The dogman guards on both sides of the palace nodded slightly and then said, we will go and report first. After a long time, the dogman guard who went in to report came back and said, the king calls you in. Yes. The dogman guard nodded slightly and then walked in. The hall is very wide and you have to echo when you speak in it. At this time, inside the hall, a majestic dogman wearing a king's robe made of wild animal fur was sitting on the throne in the hall. 5 or 6 beautiful women knelt at the feet of the dogman king. Your Majesty. The dogman leader bowed slightly and performed a vassal ceremony. What's the matter? The Dogman King raised his eyelids and spoke like thunder. There are invaders who slaughtered hundreds of our people. What? The Dogman King suddenly stood up and roared with anger. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136. The Thunder Copper Spear was successfully born. In the main hall of the city of Coal City, Qin Yu was sitting in the main seat and telling Li about what he had just encountered. Dog people. Chief, you didn't take the Imperial Guards to the inner territory of Danshan, did you? Li asked in surprise. Qin Yu shook his head. I don't know. How can I know if it is the inner territory? I was so busy looking for minerals that I forgot to calculate the distance. Maybe I really ran to the inner territory of Danshan. Li nodded and said with certainty, that should be the inner territory of Danshan. Those strange beasts and creatures will not appear in the outer area. This time we have a feud. Send someone to Panzan City to inform Jiangli and tell him to strengthen his vigilance recently. I will transfer some troops later. Remember, don't take the initiative to attack. Those dog people are superior to us in strength, speed, and even combat skills. Qin Yu warned with a serious face. Don't worry, Chief. I will keep it in mind. Li responded respectfully. At the mouth of the coal valley, Qin Yu led the guards carrying more than 2,000 kilograms of coal and walked down the mountain. It was still early today, so Qin Yu chose to lead the team back to Longcheng directly. Now the premise for Qin Yu to mine thunder copper with peace of mind is to eliminate the dog people nearby. As one of the most elite troops in the dragon tribe, the guards are slightly inferior to those dog people, so Qin Yu must be particularly cautious about eliminating the dog people. First, we must understand the strength of the dog people. Second, melt the 400 kilograms of thunder copper into powerful weapons to fight the enemy. Third, mobilize the troops of the 3 cities and attack with all their strength. We must attack quickly and strive to kill with one blow. The team of nearly 300 people quickly walked down the mountain. Qin Yu boarded the carriage and then the team sped up and rushed back to Longcheng. An hour later, Qin Yu led the team all the way into the city from the east gate and finally stopped in the inner city. The first thing to do after getting off the carriage was to send the wounded to treatment and dismiss the team to go back to rest. After dealing with the wounded soldiers of the Imperial Guard, Qin Yu issued another order to select soldiers from the reserve, replenishing the Imperial Guard to 500 people. Then he issued 2 military transfer orders in succession: 300 archers, 200 shield spearmen, 300 slingers, and 100 wolf cavalrymen, a total of more than 900 people led by G to the Coal Valley 4 garrison, to prepare in advance for the subsequent elimination of the dog people. After issuing the transfer order, Qin Yu began to lead a team to study the batch of thunder copper. In a yard, more than 20 people surrounded the pile of thunder copper weighing up to 400 kilograms and were in trouble. Chief, this thing can't be touched. What should I do? Qin Yu rubbed his chin with his right hand and thought for a moment, then explained with everyone. First, we have to find a way to melt this thing into liquid and make a mold to hold the liquid. This can be burned in a pottery kiln. Find a way to burn it first. Qin Yu looked at everyone and ordered. Yes. Everyone immediately moved after hearing the chief's urging. Qin Yu gave guidance with his advanced vision, while everyone was responsible for handling and implementing. First, everyone dug a pit in the yard, then mixed coal and wood into it, and then built a small kiln on it with stones. As the fuel inside was ignited, the flames rose and the temperature gradually increased. According to Qin Yu's guidance, everyone connected a bellows on the side to increase the temperature in the kiln. After the kiln for smelting copper was built, everyone began to collect copper ore. In order to more easily smelt it into copper water, everyone chiseled it into broken ore at Qin Yu's suggestion. Then put it into the container prepared in advance and pushed it into the kiln together. With the bellows on the side to increase the temperature, the thunder copper was gradually melted in it. An afternoon passed quickly until it was getting dark. Everyone opened the kiln with a nervous look and took out the container for the broken copper ore. The original broken, Copper ore turned into a pool of glittering and shiny copper water in front of everyone, and a few purple lightning lines flashed from time to time. Qin Yu did not dare to reach out and touch it, but asked everyone to pour it directly into the mold, prepared in advance to cool and shape it. Qin Yu had asked people to make more than 20 molds of spearheads in the pottery kiln building. The spearhead is about 12 centimeters long, 5 centimeters wide, and about 1 to 2 centimeters thick. Since there are only 400 kilograms of thunder copper, Qin Yu chose to use it to make copper spears to save materials. The spears are sharpened on both sides, and the tip of the spear is relatively sharp. It can be called a spearhead or a gunhead. A kiln of copper ore contains about 20 kilograms of broken copper, and the copper water produced is also different. The copper content is extremely high and there are very few impurities. This also greatly reduces the difficulty of smelting. The more than 20 kilograms of thunder copper smelted out finally filled 10 molds. In order to prevent direct contact with the weapons smelted from thunder copper, Qin Yu asked people to get a few pairs of leather gloves. After putting on gloves, you will not be shocked if you touch the solidified thunder copper spearhead. However, your fingertips will still feel numb, but it is not a big problem. The 10 thunder copper spearheads were first hit hundreds of times with a heavy wooden hammer to remove impurities and make them more solid and strong. Then they began to grind on the stone continuously, and the spear tip was gradually sharpened, and the spear blades on both sides were also becoming sharper. After a day of tinkering, Qin Yu was excited to finally smelt the weapon. After the 10 spearheads were ground, they were installed on the wooden pole. The thunder copper spear with a total length of more than 2 meters was completed. Everyone's face was very happy because they successfully made what the patriarch wanted to make. But what to use to test the power? After Qin Yu pondered for a moment, his eyes finally lit up and said, "Let someone bring a sheep over." Yes. One person arched his hand and immediately responded, then turned around and left to bring the sheep. After a long time, an adult sheep was led to the yard. As if he had anticipated his fate, the old sheep fell to the ground and closed his eyes silently. Qin Yu looked at the thunder copper spear that flashed a few lightning lines from time to time, and without any hesitation, he instantly pierced into the body of the old sheep lying on the ground. The old sheep, whose abdomen was pierced, straightened its whole body instantly, and then trembled continuously. After wailing twice, it lost its breath, and blood continued to flow out of the wound. Qin Yu was excited to see the sharp spear pierce the old sheep's abdomen without any hindrance. This divine copper is still strong and sharp, even if it is not fused with tin or forging alloy. And it also has the effects of paralyzing and electrocuting enemies. Very good. All those who participated in the smelting of thunder copper will be included in the copperware workshop department. Every 3 people will have a wooden house and at least 1 meat meal a day. When everyone heard this, they immediately shouted excitedly, "Long live the clan leader." Okay. Qin Yu waved his hand to calm down the excited people. "What's your name?" Qin Yu looked at the person who performed best when smelting thunder copper just now and asked. Chapter 137 4-star characters. Pre-war mobilization. Chief, my name is Yun Huan. Name, Yun Huan. Gender, male. Age 25. Force, Constitution, Agility, Intelligence, Command, Combat Talent, Long-range weapons, Talent, Forging Master, B-class superior. Effect, forged weapons are of superior quality. Stronger, sharper, and more durable, and there is a chance to forge green quality magic weapons. Satisfaction. 65. Loyalty. 88. Qin Yu looked at the talent column in Yun Huan's attribute panel, and the more he looked, the happier he felt. After a long time, he looked at Yun Huan solemnly and said, "From now on, you will be the head of the forging workshop, and you can eat together in the meeting hall every day." Qin Yu's words made the people around him look at Yun Huan with envy. Being able to step into the meeting hall is considered a high-level figure in the dragon tribe. "Thank you, Chief. I will definitely live up to your high expectations." Qin Yu nodded slightly and then slowly told everyone about the plan. First, the scale of the charcoal pit for smelting copper ore should be expanded, and the number should be increased. At present, about 20 are enough. However, there will be more and more copper mines in the future. Qin Yu expects 100 or even 200 in his heart. Later, not only the required weapons need to be forged, but also armor, farm tools, etc. However, if the farm tools are added with the characteristics of lightning or armor, they are not suitable. We also need to find a way to remove the thunder essence in the thunder copper. In addition, more molds need to be fired. The 400 kilograms of thunder copper must be made into spearheads. After all, this is the most material saving, and the other materials can't make much. In addition, 5 or 6 bronze pickaxes need to be forged to be used for mining later. Everyone listened quietly to Qin Yu's forge construction plan and forging plan. It is estimated that it will take 2 days to forge all 400 kilograms of thunder copper, or into weapons and a small part of copper pickaxes. After making it clear, Qin Yu did not stay in the forge yard, but turned around and left back to the meeting hall. The next morning, Qin Yu just woke up and heard a knock on the door. Qin Yu wondered who it could be at this time. He said in a deep voice, "Come in." As the voice fell, the door was gently pushed open, and a strong man wearing a tank snake suit and 2 tank snake scimitars on his waist walked in. "Your subordinate, Shadow Chief, greets the clan leader. Please stand up and talk about the important things." Qin Yu looked at the strong man with mantis legs and wasp waist who came in, and a trace of relief appeared in his eyes. He did not bring the shadow guards back yesterday, but sent them to search for information about the dog people. It seems that coming back early in the morning is quite rewarding. Shadow Chief bowed his hands, then stood up and said slowly, "The place where those dogmen are located is in a valley, which is wider than the Coal Valley. There are hundreds of caves, and every dozen people live in one cave. The number of people is estimated to be more than 4,000. However, the number of their warriors is only about 40%, but the remaining dogmen still have good combat power. In addition to these, there are many tall women in the valley. It seems that their status is very low, and they need to kneel to eat. My subordinates have lurked deeper into the valley. There are hundreds of dog king guards there. Not only are they more sturdy, but their equipment also has a metallic luster. They must be good things." Qin Yu listened to the information that Shadow Chief had found out, and his expression could not help but become a little complicated and ugly. He did not expect that there were so many dogmen. It seems that the opponent this time is a tough guy who is not easy to deal with. "Keep watching those dogmen." Qin Yu waved his hand. "Yes." Shadow Chief bowed his hands respectfully and then turned and left. Watching the shadow leader in night clothes leave, Qin Yu couldn't help but sigh that the ability of the shadow guard is really suitable for in-depth intelligence gathering or assassination missions. It is still necessary to replenish the shadow guard to full strength as soon as possible to play a greater role. So at noon that day, Qin Yu personally launched the second Totem Warrior Awakening meeting. The total number of people reached 42, and 38 people successfully integrated the spirit seeds and became totem warriors. 4 people failed regretfully. Qin Yu sent the newly awakened 38 people to the Dragon and Tiger Guard Academy, and then selected 8 of them to enter the Shadow Guard soldier symbol. Since then, the number of Dragon and Tiger Guards who are totem warriors has reached 63, and the number of Shadow Guards has increased to 20. In order to speed up the training process of the Dragon and Tiger Guard, Qin Yu gave each person a blood and key pill for cultivation. For 3 consecutive days, Yuming was responsible for taking 500 Dragon Cavalry battalions out to fight, and the Copper Workshop was working non-stop to make Thunder Copper Spears. Until 3 days later, 400 kilograms of Thunder Copper ore were finally smelted into 180 Thunder Copper Spears and 10 copper picks. Qin Yu tested the quality and hardness of 10 of them and found that they were very satisfactory. Whether it was hardness or sharpness, it was better than Bone Soldiers by half, and it was also extremely durable. More importantly, it had the extraordinary power of thunder and lightning. And Yuming's Dragon Rider camp also reaped a lot. 500 cavalrymen crisscrossed the eastern part of the grassland, breaking up as many as 9 tribes, plundering a population of about 2,800 people, and the number of livestock, cattle, sheep and horses added up to about 2,000. Winter is about to go away, and spring is about to come. Qin Yu has ordered people to build hundreds of livestock pens of various sizes outside the city. The purple alfalfa seeds, which have the title of the King of Forage, have also been sown around Dragon City. Within dozens of days, they will be able to grow extremely lush. On the 5th day, since the Dogman dispute, the information from the Shadow Guard said that the Dogman was recently integrating the army with a number of 500 dogmen and was preparing to go out of the valley to find human settlements and retaliate against them. Qin Yu knew that this inevitable war was about to come. So he immediately sent another messenger, ordering Panzan City Lord Jiang Li to lead 300 shield axe soldiers to the Coal Valley to station troops and wait. Then he recruited the chief of the Futeng tribe, Wu, to lead 50 totem warriors and 100 tribesmen to participate in this Dogman war. As for the more than 60 totem warriors of the Dragon tribe, although they were also strong, Qin Yu did not plan to send them out. Good seedlings should be raised well, and it was not the time to use them. The Imperial Guard sent out 300 people, and these 300 people were all given the burning blood mark, which was used to burst out power and break the deadlock when they had to. In addition to the Imperial Guards, Qin Yu transferred 500 spearmen from Dragon City, including 180 Thunder Copper spearmen, which were considered the killer this time. The total mobilized troops reached nearly 3,000 people. In order to mine divine ore and forge divine copper tools, to massively improve the civilization's combat power before the next invasion, Qin Yu is ready to go all out and conquer the Dog tribe at lightning speed. Seize the Thunder Copper Mine. Chapter 138. The war broke out, and they were ambushed. On the 6th day after the Dogman dispute, Qin Yu rushed to Coal City with thousands of troops early in the morning to join the other armies. It was about noon. In Coal City, the number of troops stockpiled reached more than 3,000. 1,000 spearmen, 600 archers, 300 guards, 300 shield axemen, 300 slingers, 300 shield spearmen, 100 wolf cavalry, and 150 Futeng warriors. A total of 3,000 troops, almost half of the Dragon tribe's troops, all gathered in the valley. There were also many generals dispatched this time, including Ji Wu, Zhu Xiang, Zhu, Ji, Yap Li, Jiang Li, and Yun Wu. The Linup is luxurious. At this time, the City Lord Hall of Coal City was filled with people one by one. After a while, a guard wearing a Tengsneg suit and 2 Tengsneg scimitars hanging on his waist strode in. Report to the tribe leader, the Dog army has been integrated and may set off at any time. I think they will definitely pass by the place where the battle took place that day. Qin Yu nodded slightly and had a plan in mind. Go down and continue to monitor. He waved his hand and at the same time sighed that having intelligence was like having a pair of bright eyes, which was really convenient. As for the enemy, Qin Yu's pressure at this time was reduced a lot. 500 dog people faced the 3,000 troops of the Dragon tribe. The Dragon tribe had an 80% chance of winning. If they ambushed in advance in the place where the dog people must pass, the chance of winning would be 100%. Now the only thing Qin Yu had to do was how to fight to minimize casualties. So, everyone in the hall began to express their own opinions and ideas. In the end, Qin Yu finalized the tactics and the tasks that everyone was responsible for. After a long time, the battle plan was discussed, and Qin Yu led a group of generals out of the City Lord's Hall. At this time, the 3,000 troops stood in front of the door of the City Lord's Hall, and there were huge crowds of people. Qin Yu looked calmly at the densely packed soldiers in front of him and shouted, "The dog people are fierce, but not as fierce as our Dragon tribe army. The dog people are brave, but not as fierce as our Dragon tribe army. There will be no shortage of enemies on the road to the rise of the Dragon tribe, but there will definitely be no enemies that can stop the sharp edge of our Dragon tribe army. Any enemy who dares to provoke the Dragon tribe and block our eyes will be killed without mercy. Brave and fearless soldiers. In today's battle, I will fight bravely with you. I will fight bloody battles with you." Qin Yu's expression became excited, and his voice surged into the ears of the 3,000-man army like a raging tide. Kill, 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 kill. The densely packed army roared in unison in response to their patriarch. For a moment, the entire Coal Valley was filled with noise. Qin Yu also pulled out the fine iron sword from his waist with a clang, and raised it high in the air, while also shouting loudly, "Kill, kill, kill." For a moment, the morale of the army reached its peak. "Let's go." With Qin Yu's order, the generals began to lead their troops to the outside of the valley. Qin Yu also got on the carriage and slowly drove out of the valley with the team. The team came all the way to the place where the last fight took place, which was the edge of the inner territory of Dangshan. According to the battle plan, let each unit go to their respective battle sites. Qin Yu jumped off the carriage and ordered. Yes. The generals around responded in unison. Panhu Valley. At this time, a group of dog warriors equipped with leather armor stood at the entrance of the valley. There were more than 800 people, densely packed at the entrance of the valley. But looking at their neat formation and stern expressions, there was no sound of chaos. The 800 dog people were divided into two teams, half of them holding bone spears and half holding bone knives. There are 3 dog leaders, and 1 dog king in the dog-sealed kingdom. There are more than 1,500 dog warriors, who are commanded by the 3 leaders. The dog king leads the dog guard team, which is about 100 people. The dog team responsible for revenge this time includes the army commanded by 1 leader and the remaining 300 people of the dead leader. The dog king did not show up. For him, the human race could not withstand the blades of the dog warriors. Let's go. The dog leader shouted angrily and rushed out of the valley with 800 dog people. When several shadow guards nearby saw this scene, they immediately ran back to report the situation. The intelligence was wrong. The dog team went out from 500 to 800. At the edge of the inner territory of Dangshan, Qin Yu and his team had already set up an ambush again. A moment later, several shadow guards suddenly showed up, scaring the people around them. Qin Yu waved his hand to calm everyone down, and then looked at the shadow leader to signal him to tell him what was going on. The shadow leader bowed slightly and then said, "The number of dogmen dispatched this time has temporarily increased to more than 800 people. They are heading in this direction, and are expected to arrive at the ambush site in more than 10 minutes. Qin Yu waved his hand calmly. The shadow leader turned and retreated. It has been nearly 5 months since the time travel, and Qin Yu is no longer the young man in his 20s. Now he is the chief of the dragon tribe with more than 20,000 people. He is the master of civilization of Qin Yu civilization. Facing a small dog tribe, he was indifferent in his heart. A mere foreign tribe of DIE could be suppressed by raising his hand. After a while, the sound of wind was close to his ears. The called softly, and Qin Yu nodded slightly. When the enemy approaches 80 steps, order the long-range troops to attack in full force. Yes. After the voice fell, the surroundings instantly became silent, leaving only a faint cold wind that could not be seen or felt. A few hundred meters away, the dogman leader in bronze armor had a stern face and held 2 bone knives. Behind him followed a neat army of dogmen, more than 800 people. It was more than 400 years old this year, the prime of the dogman tribe. It had trained its martial arts and physique for hundreds of years, so it was naturally very powerful, and therefore it was particularly confident. The dog-sealed kingdom had the divine beast Kirura, so the dogmen could live 1,000 years. Once their lifespan became long, they would sharpen their weapons, train their physiques, and become stronger in a long period of time. Therefore, the Dogman King had very strong confidence in his army. In the 3,000 miles of Dangshan, the Hualu tribe was almost wiped out, and now no tribe could withstand the blade of the dog-sealed kingdom. For this revenge, the Dogman leader estimated that those human races must be tribes outside Dangshan. No matter which tribe they were, they would be destroyed if they met them. I wonder if those human races ate the spiral turtles and the big marsh or the noisy pig beasts, and they were so bold. The Dogman leader was walking and thinking randomly, and suddenly he came to his senses and looked around. This dense forest is not right. There is an ambush. He was about to shout, but he heard a roar suddenly coming from the surroundings. Shoot. Chapter 139, The Terrifying Extraordinary Battle Formation. Shoot. With a loud shout, countless sharp arrows turned into a torrential rain of arrows and smashed into the Dogman troops. Scatter. Scatter. The Dogman leader held 2 knives to sweep away the arrows, while shouting and ordering the team to disperse. Before many Dogman warriors could react, countless arrows poured into the enemy formation. Screams came one after another. A bunch of blood splashed, accompanied by the sound of arrows whistling. Large groups of dogmen were shot and fell to the ground. The Dogman leader looked extremely ugly. These humans were too hateful. They actually set up an ambush here so despicably. The advantage of dogmen is that close combat can better reflect their strong physique, and their arm strength is also not small, at least 200 or 300 pounds, but the bows and arrows are too poor, and they can't shoot very far. Therefore, after thinking for a moment, the dogman leader immediately gave the order. Charge. Brave and fearless dogmen warriors. Follow me to charge at the enemy in front of us, and then tear them apart. Kill. With roars, countless dogmen pulled out their arrows, as long as they were not shot in the vitals, and then followed the army to charge forward. This shows how strong the dogmen are. As long as they were not killed in one blow, it would not affect their pace of charging. Ya was secretly observing the enemy in front of her from behind. At this time, she saw that the other party actually rushed up fearlessly, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. When the enemy was 60 steps away from the catapult team, she shouted, "Fire!" 300 slingers controlled nearly 40 catapults, and sharp axes cut the ropes that controlled the launch. With a series of creaking and violent friction sounds, hundreds of stone bullets were thrown into the charging dogmen team. For a while, screams came again, and many dogmen warriors were smashed to the ground, with blood spurting from their mouths, and brains all over the ground. What a cruel scene. The dogman leader had a numb face. Seeing a stone bullet about to hit his head, he quickly raised his hands, and used 2 bone knives to block the stone bullet. Puff. At the moment of contact, the knuckles of both hands were cracked by a huge force, and he grimaced in pain. The hands holding the weapons began to tremble. Many dogmen only heard a gust of wind blowing in their ears, and then saw their companions' heads behind them smashed beyond recognition, like a pool of mud. Especially the dogmen, such a bold and fierce alien race, were also worried and panicked when they saw this scene. But this is a tenacious race after all. After paying more than half of the dogmen's lives, they finally rushed out of the attack range of the catapult. More than 400 dogmen with fierce faces raised their weapons and rushed over crazily. Lee, who was involved in the command in the rear, looked at the enemy rushing over with a surprised face. This army, which was slaughtered more than half in an instant, did not collapse, but rushed up instead. After a moment, his expression turned serious again, and he immediately shouted loudly, "Shield spearmen line up, and raise shields to meet the enemy." Swish. 300 shield spearmen immediately raised their shields to form a long line of defense, with their spears placed between the shields, waiting for the dogman's charge. Thunder Spear Team. Hold up the spears. Lee continued to order according to the tactics formulated by Qin Yu. A team of more than 180 spearmen holding the newly forged thunder copper spears in the tribe rushed up and stuck behind the shield spearmen. Then they put the spears in the gap between the shields. After the special soldiers went up, it was the turn of the more than 300 ordinary spearmen behind to stick up. At a distance of dozens of meters, the enemy arrived in the blink of an eye. The moment the dogmen at the forefront stuck to the shield formation, the thunder copper spears with purple cold light instantly stabbed out. Lightning instantly poured out from the spear tip, and then many dogmen paused, losing control of their bodies for a few seconds. After this moment, the spear pierced through the dogman's body, and then pulled out violently. Blood splattered. The screams continued. Then more than 100 special spearmen holding thunder copper spears continued to thrust and pull out violently like killing gods. The shield and spear formation seemed to have turned into a natural moat on the dogman's attack path, and countless corpses fell under the natural moat. The dogman leader had a hideous face. He roared wildly in his heart. Why? Why? How can these humans be stronger than the powerful and brave dogman warriors? When will the human race be able to match the dogman? It wondered in its heart. After a long time, a thought suddenly ran through its mind. Could it be the remnants of the ancient human race? After the collapse of civilization, the dogmen have become a strong race. But in ancient times, their ancestor Lin Gao was just a minister of an ancient clan. Later, he robbed the princess of that clan, and fled all the way to Panhu Valley in Dongshan to settle down. If it is a remnant of the ancient clan, then it is understandable that it is so powerful. At this time, it has already had the intention to retreat. Looking at the shield and spear battle formation in front of him, which is like a natural moat, plus those strange thunder copper weapons, the dog leader secretly made a decision. Brave and fearless dog warriors. The enemy in front of us is too powerful. We must run back to the valley and call more tribesmen to help. Follow my steps." The loud shouting attracted the attention of many dog people. Seeing that their leader had turned around and left, the remaining dog people did not hesitate to turn around and follow him. Seeing the dog people retreat, Lee shouted, "Press forward with the shield formation." More than 800 shield and spear soldiers and spearmen immediately maintained the formation of the shield and spear battle formation, and pressed forward little by little. The dogman leader fled with the remaining 200 dogman warriors, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the enemy did not rush up. "Although the enemy is strong, we can be safe if we retreat to Panhu Valley." The dogman leader usually led the team to run back while comforting the team. As he ran, his eyes suddenly focused, staring at the dense forest in the distance in disbelief. "Kill." Suddenly, a shocking shout broke out in the dense forest. More than 300 human warriors holding shields and animal bone axes rushed out. "Damn, there is an ambush. Fight them." "Kill." The dogman leader looked angry, endured the pain in his hands, held to bone knives, and led more than 200 dogmen to kill. Jiang Li led 300 shield axe soldiers to kill from the right side behind the enemy. At the same time, after receiving the order, Ji led 100 wolf cavalrymen to make a big circle and appeared on the left side behind the enemy. At this time, bursts of rapid and powerful wolf howls suddenly sounded. The dogman leader was stunned when he saw many enemies suddenly rushing out from both sides. However, he could not just wait to be killed. More than 200 dogman warriors collided with 300 shield axe soldiers and 100 wolf cavalry in an instant. Chapter 140 The confused dog becomes the king. The bravery of the dogmen was also revealed at this time. Even if they were thrown to the ground by the giant wolf, they would bite back with tooth for tooth. But soon, the wolf knights on the giant wolf would cut their throats with the slender and sharp bone scimitars in their hands. This was a battle to annihilate the defeated soldiers without any suspense. It was strange that the battles these dogmen had experienced were too simple, and they had never anticipated the possibility of being ambushed, let alone what would happen after being ambushed. In their eyes, only the dogmen were so powerful and brave, and the human race was so weak and timid. This can be seen from the fact that the primitive tribes outside Dangshan never dared to enter the inner territory. In the subconscious of the dogmen, the human race in Dangshan was a group of timid creatures. That's why they were easily ambushed and eliminated. The war came quickly and went away quickly. The dogmen on the battlefield fell down quickly. The remaining 20 or so dogmen and the dogmen leaders surrendered and knelt on the ground in silence. Congratulations on winning a war and getting one intermediate win, a gold coin. Qin Yu was a little surprised that this ambush was so beautiful, and the power of the thunder copper spear was also ridiculously strong. It can be said that the main reason why the shield and spear battle formation was indestructible and repeatedly killed the enemy in front of the formation was the thunder copper spear. This battle was so easy that even the guards were not used, and Qin Yu didn't even have the opportunity to make a move. Shaking his head, Qin Yu led the guards to the battlefield ahead. Looking at the dogman leader who knelt on the ground to express his surrender, Qin Yu said, "Can you persuade the dogman tribe in the valley to surrender? I don't want to kill more people, but if the dogman in the valley doesn't know what's good for me, I can only let the dogman tribe be exterminated." The cold voice fell into the ears of the dogman leader. It raised its head slightly and looked up at the human man in front of it. Wearing dragon scale armor, with a fine iron sword hanging from his waist, he had an extraordinary aura. Facing that sharp gaze, the dogman leader felt a sense of pressure and immediately lowered his head and said, "The great leader of the ancient clan, I'm willing to go to you to persuade the dog king to lead the people, to submit to your command, and listen to your teachings and will." The dogman leader was very gentle and spoke very respectfully. Qin Yu smiled with satisfaction. As for the ancient clan, although it has no name, but has its strength, what is the difference between it and the ancient clan? If this name can make the dog people surrender obediently, then Qin Yu can accept it. "Chief, the casualties of this battle have been counted." Ji Wu came over and bowed. "Read." Qin Yu nodded slightly. 18 shield spearmen were killed, 22 were slightly injured, 6 spearmen were slightly injured, and 29 shield axemen were slightly injured. Take the bodies of the dead back for a proper burial, treat the wounded, and rest for half an hour before setting off for the Dogman Valley. Qin Yu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he heard Ji Wunian's casualties. The loss was not great, and it further strengthened his idea of collecting copper or to forge more thunder copper weapons. Half an hour later, the dogman leader led the way, and the 3,000-man army of the dragon tribe followed behind. Qin Yu sat in the carriage, and he was not afraid that he might be cheated if he believed the dogman. Because there were shadow guards monitoring over there, someone would report to him if there was any situation. In addition, the wolf cavalry also acted as scouts to explore the way in the frontier area. Very stable. After a long time, a shadow guard emerged from the side of Qin Yu's carriage. Chief, Panhu Valley is 2 miles ahead. Well, the whole army should be on high alert. A cold voice came from the carriage. Yes. After the shadow guard left, he shouted loudly, "The clan leader has ordered that the whole army should be on high alert." The voice reached the central army, and someone immediately shouted, "The clan leader has ordered that the whole army should be on high alert." Finally, many soldiers in the front army shouted, "The clan leader has ordered that the whole army should be on high alert." The voice was like rolling thunder, so powerful that the team of dogmen leading the way in front trembled all over. More than 10 minutes later, the army rushed all the way to the outskirts of a valley. Qin Yu had already got off the carriage and ran to the front, looking in the direction of the valley, where there were dozens of dogman warriors patrolling everywhere. "Sir, send me to persuade them to surrender." The dogman leader with his hands tied at the side spoke at this time. "No hurry, I want to scare the dogmen in the valley first, then you can persuade them to surrender." Qin Yu glanced at them and then shouted in a low voice, "Archers, shoot." With Qin Yu's order, the 600 archers behind him rushed up more than 50 meters, then drew their bows and arrows and shot at the dogman warriors at the entrance of the valley. Hundreds of arrows instantly turned into a fierce rain of arrows and smashed towards the dogmen at the entrance of the valley. Dozens of dogman warriors naturally discovered the enemy and immediately drew their bows and arrows to fight back. As a result, the arrows of one side fell into the enemy formation and brought up a bunch of splashing blood, while the arrows of the dogmen could only shoot at the feet of the enemy at most. The difference in the range of bows and arrows was ridiculous, so the dogmen around the valley entrance were hit by the fierce rain of arrows and fled. Archers are responsible for suppression, and the shield and spear battle formation is pressed to the position of the valley entrance. Yes. Thousands of people responded loudly at the same time. The sound was deafening. Following Qin Yu's order, the shield spear battle formation of more than 800 people gradually pressed towards the valley entrance, and 600 archers also fired a round of volleys at the valley entrance from time to time. After a while, the remaining dog warriors at the valley entrance immediately turned around and fled into the valley, leaving only corpses on the ground. Not good. Not good. A dog warrior rushed to the stone hall at the bottom of the valley in a panic. "Stop. What do you want to see the king for?" The dog king guard at the door of the stone hall immediately shouted. "Valley, outside the valley, there are human attacks." "What?" The faces of several dog king guards changed instantly, and then they hurried into the stone hall to report the situation to the dog king. After a while, the dog king guards hurriedly came out and said immediately, "Go in and explain the situation." "Yes, yes." The dog warrior hurriedly followed into the stone hall. The dog king, who was originally sitting high on the stone seat, stood up at this time, looking a little panicked. The dozen or so beautiful women who were originally serving the dog king were so scared that they hid in the corners. They dared not cover their bodies with their hands, even when their springtime beauty was exposed. "Tell me quickly, what's the situation outside the valley? Where is the chieftain? Where are the 800 dog men he led?" "Your Majesty." Thousands of human troops suddenly surged outside the valley, and the offensive was swift. "The chieftain is probably already." "What?" The dog king was stunned, and he couldn't believe it for a moment. Chapter 141. Capture Panhu Valley and conquer the dog men. Call the 3 chiefs to quickly send 500 dog warriors to the valley entrance to resist the enemy. In addition, call the young and strong dog people in the valley, distribute weapons and fight the enemy together with the king. The dog king issued an order quickly. It was a matter of life and death for the dog country and himself, so he had to be anxious. So, after receiving the king's order, the 3 chiefs of the dog country quickly led 500 dog people to kill at the valley entrance. Qin Yu looked at the enemy rushing up at this time, and a smile appeared on his face. Why didn't he rush into the valley, but stationed at the valley entrance to set up a battle formation and wait for the enemy? Exclamation mark. Of course, it was to expand the advantage of the shield and spear battle formation, strive to consume more enemies, and conquer the dog people in one fell swoop. Once most of the dog people's troops are consumed, if you surrender, the remaining dog people will be regarded as surrendering to him, and then go to mine. If the dog people swear to resist to the death, then the dog people who do not have many troops are just fish on Qin Yu's chopping board, and can be slaughtered at will. Why not let the dog leaders persuade them to surrender? It's not that they don't want to go, but the time has not come. Think about how many troops the Dog King has under his command, and he has not seen the bravery of the Dragon Tribe army. Can he choose to surrender just because of one person? Besides, if he doesn't hurt them or scare them, will Qin Yu be at ease even if they surrender? Will they be obedient? Of course not. Therefore, Qin Yu wants to make them feel pain and make them afraid when they think of the Dragon Tribe. He wants to leave them with the idea of fear so that they can be obedient and obey his orders. As the dog warriors in the valley gradually approached, Qin Yu immediately moved the catapult troops over. Archers, shoot. When the enemy approached 100 meters away, Qin Yu gave an order. Countless arrows turned into a rain of arrows and smashed over like an overwhelming rain. Many dog warriors looked up and saw dense black dots falling from the sky. The dogman leader hurriedly shouted, "Disperse! Disperse!" Dense arrows fell from the sky, but the dogman warriors dispersed in time, and this round of volleys only took away more than 50 dogmen. But the wounded were even worse. Fire! Fire! Then the rain of arrows shot 2 more rounds in a row, taking away more than 100 dogmen. However, at this time, the dogman leader also rushed into the range of 50 meters with the remaining dogman warriors. Qin Yu smiled coldly and immediately ordered, "Catapult! Fire!" With a series of violent creaking friction sounds, hundreds of stone bullets were blasted out in an instant. Screams rang out continuously, and broken limbs, arms and heads were smashed all over the sky. Blood and brains flowed all over the ground. The scene once again became as terrible as a sheriff field. The dogman leader was unlucky enough to be hit by 2 rapidly roaring stone bullets in succession. His head was smashed to pieces. For a time, many dogmen became confused, and there was no leader to replace their command. This is the disadvantage of not having an army. If there is only one leader, once the leader dies, the soldiers under his command will have no one to issue orders and no one to lead them. They will be scattered like headless flies. The shield and spear battle formation will move forward 30 meters. Qin Yu looked at the remaining dog warriors in front of him and immediately seized the opportunity to order. More than 800 people quickly moved and poured into the valley. The archers will follow up 80 meters away from the shield and spear battle formation, and the catapults will follow up 50 meters away. As Qin Yu's voice fell, the army of the Dragon Tribe slowly pressed into the valley. According to the information of the Shadow Guard, the number of dog warriors left in the valley must be small at this time, so Qin Yu let the army press in. With the shield and spear battle formation in front, no matter how many enemies there are, they can only kneel under the spears. What's more, there are archers and slingers in the back to hold the formation. In addition, there are also reserve troops such as shield axe soldiers, guards, wolf cavalry, shadow guards, and Futeng warriors. It can be said that for Qin Yu, taking over this valley is a sure thing. At this time, the Dog King in the valley brought 100 Dog King guards and more than 700 young and strong dog people with weapons and wearing leather armor. Although they are not professional troops, due to their longevity, their physique and fighting skills are not bad. That is to say, their individual combat power is good. But the coordination between the armies is much worse. At this time, when the Dog King arrived with a large number of dog people, he looked at the valley in trance with corpses all over the ground in front of him and was shocked. Yesterday, more than 200 dog warriors were lost. Today, more than 800 people led by the chief are estimated to have been wiped out. Just now, the third chief also died with 500 dog people. Can it win? It is uncertain, but unwilling, and afraid of its own end. After a long time, the Dog King secretly gritted his teeth and shouted fiercely, "Kill! Kill all these invaders! Drive them out of our territory! Behind us are our homes, and thousands of our people. Don't let these hateful invaders occupy them and insult them! Kill!" The Dog King shouted as he rushed over, holding a huge copper knife. Behind him followed hundreds of the most elite Dog King guards, and at the end were more than 700 young and strong dog men who rushed up together. Shoot. Qin Yu couldn't help but feel ashamed when he saw hundreds of dog men rushing up again. Damn, there are really a lot of dog men. After killing batch after batch, there are still so many. However, he was careful and soon found out that there was something fishy. Although the number of this team of dogmen reached more than 800, most of them couldn't even line up neatly. They were in a mess. It was obvious that ordinary dogmen were temporarily pushed up to make up the numbers. Archers and slingers, attack with all your might. Warriors, hold on. They are already exhausted. Countless arrows were shot madly, and hundreds of stone bullets focused on the Dog King's guards who were rushing in the front. If a heavy stone bullet hits you, you will not be able to survive. At the least, your ribs will be broken, and at the worst, your brain will burst out. It's terrifying. Kill. The shield and spear formation advances. Qin Yu saw that the other side had begun to panic, and immediately ordered the 800 shield and spear formations to suppress it. As the two armies collided, the bravery of the Dog King's guards almost allowed them to break through the defense line of the shield and spear formation. But with the appearance of the black technology Thunder Copper Spear, the opponent's offensive was instantly suppressed. As time passed, the Dogman army was gradually eroded. All troops, attack. Qin Yu saw that the other side was doomed to defeat, and immediately shouted the order loudly. At the same time, 100 wolf cavalry, 300 shield axe soldiers, 300 guards, 150 Futeng warriors, and 20 shadow guards rushed up and killed the enemy. The offensive of the army of more than 3,000 people quickly surrounded the remaining more than 300 dog warriors. The Dog King looked around in horror. His face was pale with shock, and he roared wildly in his heart. Why are there so many people? This king. I'm afraid. I'm in danger. Chapter 142 The Origin of 1,000 Years of Life. In Panhu Valley, under the pressure of 3,000 troops, the Dog King had no choice but to kneel down and surrender with more than 200 dog warriors. Qin Yu glanced at the face of the Dog King. His expression was full of forbearance, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, revealing the humiliation and unwillingness in his heart. But he had to do this to survive. This guy was nearly 1.9 meters tall, with a strong body and amazing arm strength. Not only that, his face also revealed a sense of nobility, as if he had been sitting on the throne for many years. The Dog King? Qin Yu smiled and said, I haven't even become a king yet. How can a small tribe hiding in the mountains dare to become a king? The indifferent voice fell into the ears of the Dog King and frightened him. This throne has been passed down from generation to generation from the hands of our ancestors. I didn't know your reputation before, but now that I see you, I dare not offend you. I'm willing to submit to you. Qin Yu smiled after hearing this, and continued to ask, tell me about the situation in this valley, and how many dog people are there? My lord, there are more than 3,000 dog people left in the valley, more than 3,000 women, and more than 2,000 slaves. The Dog King responded cautiously. Slaves? Qin Yu raised his eyebrows and questioned, I think they are the food you raise? Are you tired of living by taking our human race as food? The cold voice fell into the ears of the Dog King, and he was so scared that he knelt down and shouted, I dare not. I dare not. Everything is up to you, my lord. The dog people raise our human race as food, so I will punish you to go mining. But their behavior is really bad, and when both humans and gods are angry, you will pay for the sins of the dog people with your life. Clang, a cold light flashed, and Qin Yu drew out the fine iron sword and instantly slashed at the neck of the Dog King. A head with a face full of disbelief fell to the ground with a click. The surrounding dog people were immediately shocked, fearing that these humans would kill them as well. What's your name? Qin Yu wiped the blood on the sword, then turned and looked at the chief of the dog people and asked. The chieftain shivered, silently labeling the man in front of him as moody and unpredictable. My name is Hupio. Name, Hupio. Gender, male. Age, 488. Force, Constitution, Agility, Intelligence, Command, Combat Talent, Two-handed Weapon, Talent, Chasing Tigers, Class A lower. Effect, increase the damage of the army to aliens. by 100%, increase the damage to wild beasts by 200%, and increase the marching speed of the army by 50% satisfaction. 65 loyalty. 61 you don't know until you see it, and you'll be shocked when you see it. This chieftain of the Dogman tribe, Hupio, is not only an old monster who has lived for more than 400 years, but also a military talent. The previous dog king is dead, so you will succeed him. Qin Yu silently turned off Hupio's panel, then looked at him and said gently, "My lord, I dare not. Hey, the dog people will eventually have someone to manage on my behalf. You surrendered first, and you were the chief of the dog people before. You are the right person. Secondly, Panhu City will be established in the valley, and the title of the dog kingdom will be erased. You will serve as the mayor of Panhu City, and be responsible for managing many matters in Panhu Valley. In addition, all races in the city must be equal, and human slaves and the bad habit of eating on the knees are not allowed. Do you understand?" Qin Yu asked with a smile. "I, the mayor of Panhu City, will not let you down, and will implement your will as you wish, and I will never have second thoughts from now on." Hupio immediately knelt down and bowed to Qin Yu. Qin Yu walked up and gently helped Hupio up. Momo looked at his loyalty again, which had risen to 68 at this time. It seems that it can be used. Generally speaking, if the loyalty continues to increase, it means that the person is willing to surrender. If it does not increase but decreases, or it rises and falls erratically, it means that there must be some rebellious heart. I will take away all the slaves in the valley, and I will take away the women who want to leave the valley. In addition, I will recruit 1,000 dog laborers to dig in the mines and build mines. The other 1,000 dog laborers can be replaced every month. Of course, they cannot be replaced. This is your business. In addition, Panhu City can have dog army, but it is not allowed to exceed 500. In addition, dog people should be encouraged to give birth. A garrison will be established in the city, and I will station an army of 500 people, which will also play a role in assisting defense. The garrison will establish a garrison commander, whose power and position are not lower than that of the city lord, and he has the right to make decisions on many major matters. In order to better control the dog people and Panhu City, Qin Yu made a simple plan for this. In addition to checking and balancing the city lord, the garrison commander also has to monitor the movements of Panhu City. I understand. Hupio responded obediently after hearing this. Qin Yu nodded slightly and then looked at Yun Wu and said, "Chief Yun, you will be the garrison commander of Panhu Town Guardhouse. In addition to the 50 totem warriors of your own tribe, I will send another 500 spearmen to garrison here. It's all up to the chief." Yun Wu naturally had no objection. After all, if he wanted the Futeng tribe to live well, there were some things he had to do, even if he didn't want to. The so-called garrison commander of Panhu Town Guardhouse, with more than 500 soldiers, had considerable power. Qin Yu silently added, "If you perform well, the Futeng tribe can also have a fiefdom and a city." After hearing this, Yun Wu became excited and immediately expressed that he would do his best to be the garrison commander. This was a sweet date for Yun Wu's future. As long as he worked hard, Qin Yu would give him what he wanted. This was naturally the biggest source of motivation. In the following time, Hupio led the surrendered army into the valley, telling many dog people about the changes and persuading them to surrender to the dragon tribe. There were also rebels, but they lost their heads soon. Qin Yu would not be lenient when dealing with aliens. At the same time, the knives of hundreds of guards would not hesitate. Under the strong suppression of the dragon tribe, many dog people in the valley finally knelt on the ground in resignation. Since then, there has been no dog kingdom in Dongshan, only Panhu City under the dragon tribe. There is nothing good to see in the valley. Primitive, simple, wild. After a simple observation of the terrain, Qin Yu prepared to take people away. Before leaving, Qin Yu asked Hupio a question he had always been curious about. Does every one of you dog people have a lifespan of up to 1,000 years? Hupio nodded and replied, "Our ancestor, the scale dog, had a deep friendship with the divine beast Ji Liang, so the divine beast Ji Liang blessed the dog people with longevity. Because the number of dog people was small at that time, Ji Liang could easily give our entire race 1,000 years of lifespan. But if it were the human race, the cause and effect would be too great, and Ji Liangma would not be able to withstand its powerful cause and effect. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143 3 Major Development Plan Guidelines. Lijing Copper Mine. At this time, a mine camp covering an area of about 1,000 square meters gradually took shape. More than 1,000 dogmen gathered here to dig the Lijing Copper Mine. 50 totem warriors of the Futeng tribe and 100 guards led by Zhu Xiang were responsible for the safety and order of the mine. A construction team of 500 people was constantly improving the construction of this mine camp. At present, most of the tools used by dog miners are stone tools. The 10 copper drafts are used to dig a larger open pit mine area in the cave, which is convenient for more dogmen to mine copper. According to Qin Yu's estimation, as the area of the mine cave gradually increases, the amount of copper ore produced daily will also gradually increase. At present, the amount of copper ore mined is not much, and it is good to have an average of about 2,000 kilograms per day. But even if the number is not large, Qin Yu will send carriages to transport ore every day, and the scale of the copper workshop in Longcheng is also expanding. The copper ore produced by the copper miners continuously sent to the copper workshop in Longcheng, and then the copper workshop continuously produces and forges copper tools and sends them to the copper mine. At present, Qin Yu has focused on mining tools. It will take some time before the exemption card expires, so the forging of copper weapons has been delayed a lot. He is not in a hurry. Dragon City, Meeting Hall. Qin Yu sat at the table, holding a special charcoal pen in his hand. A piece of light yellow paper was already filled with dense words. Qin Yu wrote down the main development plans of the tribe in the near future on paper, which can better keep him clear and clear about the future plans. The first is the expansion plan of the rammed earth wall of Dragon City. This is the project with the largest number of people mobilized. After about a week, the progress of the project has reached about 15%, which is not fast. At least it is a little slower than Qin Yu expected. He must complete the construction of the rammed earth wall before the next invasion war. Therefore, he wrote another line of words below the plan. Recruit 2,500 slaves brought back from Panhu Valley to join the construction of the wall, and promise to grant them the status of ordinary tribesmen after the project is completed. After writing, Qin Yu looked at the second development plan. Research plan for Thunder Copperware. Mobilizers. Copperware workshop staff. Wudian Jiangrong. Yunyan. Person in charge. Qin Yu. Regarding the plan to forge Thunder Copperware, Qin Yu has 3 main research directions. The first is to find a way to extract and separate the Thunder Essence from the Thunder Copper Mine, and to ensure its original solidity. This idea is mainly to separate its lightning characteristics when forging copper tools, farm tools and other civilian tools, to make it more convenient to use. The second direction is to integrate the separated Thunder Essence, which is the so-called power of thunder and lightning, into new minerals, and increase and purify the Thunder Essence content of the original Thunder Copper Mine. If this idea is realized, the power of Thunder Copper weapons will be even stronger. The third direction is how to let soldiers or ordinary people and even totem warriors better master Thunder Copper weapons. According to Qin Yu's conjecture, can the power in the spirit seed be used to control Thunder Copper weapons more subtly, or inspire more powerful power? Even the so-called weapons containing the power of thunder and lightning, can they increase the connection with the legendary method of dripping blood to recognize the master, so that their power becomes stronger? Qin Yu wrote all these ideas on paper. He had a hunch that this kind of divine mineral containing the power of authority has a very high upper limit and very strong research and development plasticity. The third plan is to establish a school to popularize writing. Writing is the most important thing in civilization. It can be said that most civilizations need to be passed down in the form of writing. Of course, this is a long-term perspective. From the current perspective, writing can better popularize policies, record various things, popularize military affairs, and convey orders, so that the power framework can run more coordinated and develop more rapidly. Therefore, the establishment of a school to popularize writing should be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Qin Yu once found that the language of this world, or the writing left after the destruction of civilization, is somewhat similar to the Chinese characters of China, but the gap is very large, like the gap between small seal script and simplified characters. His consciousness moved, and a blue stream of light flashed in his hand. As the light dissipated, a thick book appeared in front of Qin Yu. This heavy book looks like a dictionary, but when you open it, the pages are blank. The texture looks like paper, but it is not paper. It is as tough as leather, and it is very difficult to tear it up. This is the blue quality rare item textbook that Qin Yu had drawn before. With just a thought, you can print the text recorded in your mind, and the person who reads the text will increase the literacy efficiency by 200%. Obviously, this is an item specially produced by the system for the popularization of civilization or the creation of text. Qin Yu is not familiar with the text of this world, so Chinese characters are his best choice and the most suitable choice. After thinking about it, Qin Yu picked up the textbook, and with a thought, he chose to print the Chinese characters in his mind on it. Qin Yu only felt a slight pain in his head, and then it was over. It was so simple that he was stunned for a long time. He reached out and opened the textbook, and the originally blank book was now full of Chinese characters. Every time Qin Yu read a word, the meaning, pronunciation, word combination, shape, etc. of the word would appear in his mind. It is very simple and easy to understand. So, for the next 7 days, Qin Yu went to the copper workshop to study the thunder copper while opening a school to popularize writing. The name of the school was named the Internal Affairs School by Qin Yu. The number of students in the first batch of the school reached more than 50. Among them, 7 or 8 were high-level people in the tribe and could take time to study. The remaining more than 40 people were selected by Qin Yu himself. Their loyalty was higher than 80, and their intelligence attribute potential was more than 3 stars, and their age was between 20 and 40 years old. The reason for selecting these 2 age groups is mainly because the age of 20 has left some immaturity, and the intelligence level is also a relatively high age group. The reason for not exceeding 40 years old is that, after studying at an older age, they will not be able to serve for long. Therefore, 20 to 40 years old is the standard of the school. Qin Yu personally served as a lecturer in the Internal Affairs School, mainly teaching writing, arithmetic, management, methods of handling various things, and the execution of things. Qin Yu trained students in the Internal Affairs School, mainly to have talents to run the national framework when the country is established in the future. Not only should this group of literate talents be trained, but also collective literacy should be carried out for senior personnel. All officers must learn to read. Qin Yu will even open various lectures later, and a large number of talents will be trained in internal affairs, military affairs, agriculture, etiquette, ordnance, etc. Chapter 144, Research and Development Results of Extraordinary Weapons. It's done. It's done. In the steam-spurting copper workshop, a group of sweaty men excitedly stared at the 2 pools of liquid that had been separated and shouted excitedly, "Go and inform the clan leader." Jiang Rong exhaled a breath of turbid air and then urged with a smile, "It has been 15 days since everyone started studying thunder essence copper. After Jiang Rong and Yun Yin's continuous research and experiments, they finally created a method to separate thunder essence from copper ore. And when the copper water separated from thunder essence is smelted into copper, the firmness is not reduced at all without the premise of lightning characteristics. Secondly, after the separation method is studied, it will become extremely simple to deduce the fusion method." A moment later, Qin Yu came after hearing the news and walked into the copper workshop. "Clan leader." Everyone saluted respectfully to the visitor. Qin Yu waved his hand and said hurriedly, "Have you studied it? Where is the result? Let me see it." The forging staff of the copper workshop ran out and fetched 2 brass picks. Qin Yu looked at the 2 copper picks that turned from purple to yellow and smiled instantly. The copper wire containing thunder essence was originally purple, but now it has turned into brass. Doesn't it mean that the thunder essence has been successfully separated? "Bring 2 stones." Qin Yu immediately ordered. "Oh, yes. As the saying goes, the leader says one word, and the subordinates run their legs off." Soon, several people from the copper workshop brought 2 stones and placed them in front of Qin Yu. Qin Yu nodded slightly and gave the copper pickaxe to the 2 people, then ordered, "Knock hard until the stone is broken." "Yes." The 2 responded and then picked up the brass pickaxe and began to knock the stone on the ground. After more than 20 violent knocks, the stone finally couldn't withstand the violent chiseling and broke. Qin Yu immediately checked the wear of the brass pickaxe, and the result was undoubtedly very surprising to him. The pickaxe body had no wear at all, and it was very strong, without any deformation, or bending or flattening. Qin Yu breathed a sigh of relief, and the copper issue was finally resolved. Now not only the efficiency of mining can be greatly improved, but also the efficiency of building and farming can be greatly improved. Various tools can be smelted from copper ore. Even the materials for the currency copper coins in the future have come out. Qin Yu couldn't help but feel very happy. He looked at Jiang Rong and others and said, "Jiang Rong, Yun Yin, Yun Huan, you 3 have made great contributions to the research and development of copper tools, so I will reward each of you with a single family wooden house covering an area of 50 square meters in the inner city." The 3 of them immediately bowed and said, "Thank you for the reward, Patriarch. This reward is not as simple as a single family wooden house. It means that you have your own privacy and real estate. Once the currency is issued, the inner city will definitely be the center of Langcheng, and it will also be the most prosperous and valuable place in the future. In the future, several people will understand the higher value of this single family wooden house in the inner city." After the reward, Qin Yu asked about the method of separating the thunder spirit. Jiang Rong bowed and replied, "Patriarch, the separation of the thunder essence is mainly based on the golden spirit seed. Although the spirit seed cannot absorb it, it can contain the power of thunder and lightning and slowly separate it." Qin Yu quickly understood after listening to Jiang Rong's simple explanation. The spirit seed condensed by the power of heaven and earth in the king's cauldron has the ability to contain everything. But if you want to absorb it, you need to find a totem related to thunder and lightning, and then feed it to the king's cauldron. After the king's cauldron copies the power of the totem authority of thunder and lightning, the spirit seed can absorb the thunder and lightning power in the thunder essence copper. But although it cannot be absorbed now, it can rely on the tolerance of the spirit seed to separate the thunder essence from the copper ore, and finally slowly separate the thunder essence. Of course, this step still requires the thunder essence copper ore to be smelted and burned into copper water before it can be operated. And the separated thunder essence must be stored in a non-conductive container, otherwise it is extremely unstable. If it is according to your statement, then it is not difficult to integrate the thunder essence into the copper ore again. Qin Yu looked at Jiang Rong and asked. Jiang Rong nodded and replied, "Yes, clan leader, it is not difficult to reintegrate, but there is a limit to the amount of thunder essence that can be integrated into a piece of copper ore. It can be integrated about 3 to 5 times of ordinary thunder essence copper ore." Qin Yu nodded. He understood what Jiang Rong meant. The concentration of thunder and lightning power in weapons forged with fused thunder essence copper ore is about 3 to 5 times that of the original. Take the thunder copper spear as an example. The spearhead weighing about 1 pound, if forged with fused copper ore, then the power is 3 to 5 times that of the previous one. At this level, Qin Yu estimated that the so-called non-conductive material would not play a big protective role. Even the enemy without protection might be directly stunned or even electrocuted to death. And according to Qin Yu's understanding, thunder is a substance, electricity is also a substance, and the thunder and lightning produced by the addition of the two is another substance. The latter is more violent and more harmful, so the actual combat effect may be better than Qin Yu expected. Patting Jiang Rong on the shoulder, Qin Yu said with relief and encouragement, "The first item of the copper research project has been completed. We must work harder on the next 2 items and strive to complete them within 15 days and get results. I will do my best and never let you down." Jiang Rong replied respectfully. At the same time, he was happy and honored for this. The clan leader saved their lives, and now he can finally do something useful for the clan leader. He was relieved. There was a feeling of gratitude that he could repay the favor. Qin Yu nodded and left. He also told everyone that once they mastered the ability to fuse thunder essence, they should forge thunder copper weapons on a large scale. First of all, they must focus on thunder copper spears. After the number of forged weapons is enough to equip 2,000 people, they will forge swords, axes, shields, arrows, etc. After leaving the copper workshop, Qin Yu returned to a building next to the meeting hall. This building covers an area of 300 square meters and is made of wood. This is the Internal Affairs School founded by Qin Yu. There are a total of 54 students in the first term, and each day is divided into 2 classes. Each class lasts for 1 hour or 2 hours. The first class is to learn Chinese characters in the textbook. With the attribute bonus of the strange object, everyone can master more than 20 characters in one class. Many smart and talented students can even master 30 or 40 characters in one class. The second class is for Qin Yu to teach arithmetic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, etc. It's a good thing that these people were selected with high intelligence, otherwise Qin Yu would be driven crazy. Even if they have high intelligence attributes, they are fine when they encounter addition and subtraction at the beginning of arithmetic, but once it comes to multiplication and division, they are dumbfounded, as if an uncrossable ravine is blocking everyone. Please subscribe QWQ. Chapter 145 Purple Quality Military Wonder. Let's stop here for today's class. Qin Yu sighed and waved to everyone, then walked out of the Internal Affairs School. Qin Yu estimated that it would be impossible to get the students in the school to meet the graduation standards in 2 months. Alas, it's really a long way to go. After sighing, Qin Yu turned and walked into the meeting hall. Looking at the sky, he estimated that it was almost time for dinner. Qin Yu took advantage of this time to take out the civilization gold coins he had recently harvested. 2 intermediate winner gold coins, 5 primary winner gold coins, and 3 primary loser gold coins. Of course, the latter was deliberately swiped. Qin Yu's consciousness moved, and in a trance, the surrounding scene changed. It was still the lush cliff bank, and he was already familiar with the lottery process. He threw the gold coins in his hand into the water, and then there were only bursts of violent splashing sounds. Then streams of light of different colors shot up into the sky. Among them, a purple stream of light was the most powerful, like a star surrounded by a moon. Qin Yu smiled slightly. His luck was still so good. It was purple. He quickly clicked on the item prompt this time. You consume an intermediate winner's gold coin and obtain the primary wonder Royal Knights Academy X1. Purple quality. You consume an intermediate winner's gold coin and obtain the talent book Talent of the King's Assistant X1. Blue quality. You consume a primary winner's gold coin and obtain the weapon Big Rhubarb Crossbow X1. Green quality. You consume a primary winner's gold coin and obtain the weapon Big Rhubarb Crossbow X1. Green quality. You consume a primary winner's gold coin and obtain 100 Jin Fierce Fire Oil X1. White quality. You consume a primary winner's gold coin and obtain the item Dangfeng Po X1. Blue quality. You consume a primary winner's gold coin and obtain the magic weapon Fine Iron Halberd X1. Green quality. You consume a primary loser's gold coin and obtain the building Large Ice Cellar X1. Blue quality. You consume a primary loser's gold coin and obtain the building Silk Museum X1. Green quality. You consume 1 primary loser gold coin and get the building Watermill X1. Green quality. There are a total of 10 items, including a wonder, 3 buildings, a talent book, a prop, a military material, a magic weapon, and 2 weapons. Qin Yu first picked the ones he was interested in. Royal Knight Academy, primary wonder, with a construction area of up to 3,000 square meters, luxurious and elegant architectural style, and numerous pavilions. This is a high-level academy for training noble knights, and the most outstanding royal knights in the empire come out of it. Construction requires 30,000 civilization points or the provision of complex building materials for construction. Please check the specific properties after construction. Qin Yu looked at the introduction above with great interest on his face. He was looking forward to how amazing the effect of this wonder, which was 1 quality higher than the giant stone statue, would be. He certainly couldn't get the building materials, but 30,000 civilization points were just a piece of cake. He could just find a time to choose a site and build it. After putting the things away, Qin Yu looked at the talent book again. Talent of King's Assistant, B class superior. After learning, the target will recognize the talent of King's Assistant / effect. Those with this talent are good at making decisions and have a chance to solve the monarch's problems. When implementing the monarch's policies, the success rate increases by 50% and the efficiency of implementation increases by 50%. Not bad. It's a good talent. Qin Yu's face was even more joyful. However, there is no one suitable for this talent at present. You can't put the talent of a counselor on a general. C2 is suitable, but he is too old. To put it bluntly, he may die at any time and his talent will be wasted. After thinking about it, Qin Yu put the talent book away and take it out when he meets the right person in the future, including the 2 large yellow bed crossbows drawn this time. Qin Yu has 6. Excluding the 2 in the Four Seasons Fairy Valley, the 4 in Langcheng are just enough for 1 on each of the 4 walls. The remaining rewards are much simpler. 100 kilograms of fierce fire oil can be used for fire attack or making rockets. Qin Yu clicked on the introduction of the item again to check it out. Dongfeng Po. It can borrow a gust of wind at a specified time, place, and direction, which lasts for half an hour. Yes, it is another item that can turn the tide against the wind. Qin Yu quietly put it away and continued to check the other rewards. Jing TG, a magic weapon made by a master blacksmith for 3 years. It has the same origin as the halberd knife, but with an extra arc blade, facing left and right, which can block the enemy's blade and hook the shield. It weighs more than 30 kilograms. Only a strong man can show his bravery. This magic weapon is suitable for Hupio of the Dogman tribe. Qin Yu rubbed his chin with the tiger's mouth of his right hand, thinking about when to give Hupio a chance to make merit, and then give him this magic weapon, so as to buy the dog's heart and increase its loyalty. Hupio's talent and attributes are very good, and it is not certain who is stronger than G. His talent has a great damage bonus to aliens, and he is a special type of general. Even if Qin Yu's world does not have many aliens, there must be other players, right? Besides, it seems that for the dog people, all races except the dog people, including the human race, are considered aliens, right? That will be the time for the tiger soul to emerge. It is no joke that the army under his command will increase the damage to aliens by 100%. After putting the things away, Qin Yu glanced at the 3 buildings again. The large ice cellar is equivalent to a special large refrigerator that can freeze and preserve items. The building storage area is about 500 square meters and the height is 3 meters. However, it needs to be built underground. This area can store a lot of things. Now the heavy snow on the grassland has almost melted and the temperature is gradually rising. There are still more than 700,000 kilograms of venison stored before. Now there is a storage building, so it will not rot and waste. The other 2 buildings, Silk Museum and Watermill, one can raise silkworms and make silk, and the other can grind grain crops into powder. However, it is required to be built by the water, such as the shore of Nanu Lake. After checking all these rewards, it was just time for dinner. People began to enter the meeting hall, and after greeting Qin Yu respectfully, they found a seat and sat down. Chief C2, leaning on a wooden stick, stepped into the meeting hall, greeted respectfully, and sat down. Qin Yu looked at C2 and asked, "It's just right to take this opportunity. Elder C, tell me about the current population and military strength of the dragon tribe." C2 was about to stand up, and Qin Yu hurriedly said, "Just sit down and talk." Chapter 146, Recent Developments in Civilization. Listening to C2's report, Qin Yu clearly understood the recent changes and growth of the population, military and civilians of the dragon tribe. First of all, the dragon tribe currently has 5 cities, namely Langcheng, Coal City, Xianggu City, Panshan City, and Panhu City. Excluding the soldiers and the army, the total population has reached more than 19,000 people. If the number of dog people is included, it is more than 22,000 people. This is not counting the number of troops, which has exceeded 20,000. This development speed is surprisingly amazing. He is very satisfied. At the same time, the number of troops has also increased greatly. If the number of warriors from the dog tribe and the Futeng tribe is included, the total number of troops can reach more than 7,000 or even 8,000. The detailed division is that there are more than 1,500 archers, of which 500 are high quality recruits produced by the militia training camp. The number of shield spearmen has increased from 500 to 800 because they can form a new and powerful battle formation with spearmen. The number of spearmen has increased the most due to the Thunder Copua. It has increased from 1500 to 2500, with a total of 1000 new recruits, who are also high quality soldiers from the militia training camp. In addition, they have Thunder Bronze spears, so after simple training, they have good combat effectiveness. The number of shield axe soldiers commanded by Jiang Li has increased from 300 to 500, which is a normal increase in number. Since the 3 primary animal pens of the wolf cavalry were working at the same time, Qin Yu spent a lot of civilization points to improve the attributes, so in a short time, he gathered 100 black wolves that can be used as mounts for cavalry combat. Therefore, the number of blood-packed wolf riders has doubled, from 100 to 200. The number of scouts under Xiaoyu has also doubled, from 100 to 200. The number of the Imperial Guards has not changed, it is still 500 people, and the level of elite is no longer the same as before. The number of the Dragon Rider Battalion under Commander Yuming has not changed, it is still 500. In recent days, they have been using the surrounding tribes as opponents for training. Every knight has blood on his hands. In addition to the 10x training card, the Dragon Rider Battalion can be regarded as an elite under Qin Yu. The total number of slingers has reached more than 500 people, and the number of catapults has reached more than 80 vehicles under continuous production and construction. It is worth mentioning that the Dragon Tiger Guard is an extraordinary siege soldier under Qin Yu's command. It has unlimited potential and has a number of 100 people. The current combat power can be ranked in the top 3 among the many armies of the Dragon tribe. You must know that they have been established for no more than a month. In addition, the Dogman tribe has retrained an army of 500 people by Tiger Soul. According to the powerful physique of the Dogman, the combat power should not be underestimated. If the advanced combat experience and excellent military equipment of the human race are popularized, the combat power of the Dogman army can be increased by 3 to 5 times. The number of warriors of the Futeng tribe is about 200, of which more than 50 are totem warriors. Finally, there is a secret special army of Qin Yu, the Shadow Guard. The number has increased to 50, and even if they are taken out individually, their combat power is ridiculously high. After all, this is a purple quality military symbol, and the equipment is advanced equipment bought with Krypton gold. The combat power is naturally ridiculously strong. In the end, the total calculation actually exceeded 8,000 people. This number scared Qin Yu. This accounts for nearly 1/3 of the total population, and the ratio of civilians to soldiers has reached 3:1. However, after thinking for a while, Qin Yu understood that the Dragon tribe is not short of soldiers now. The so-called high-quality soldiers are tall and strong young men. Now as long as there is a militia training camp, even a thin dwarf of 1.5 meters can be turned into a tall and strong man by spending a little civilization points. Not only that, agility, intelligence and even command can be improved to a certain level, which is considered a very good high-quality soldier source. Therefore, Qin Yu can recruit soldiers and explode soldiers as he says. We have enough capital and a strong body. Naturally, there is nothing to worry about. With a wave of his hand, he will be a strong army in the primitive era. After learning about the current combat power of the Dragon tribe, Qin Yu's heart slowly burned with a flame called desire. He wanted to climb to the top. He wanted to build the strongest civilization. The so-called civilization game is actually quite cruel. What would happen if Qin Yu was Zhao Yi in that invasion war? His fate was controlled by others, and his life and death were determined by a word, and the civilization he created would collapse and be destroyed. Even if we return to Qin Yu's own situation, there is still the possibility of being threatened by others. There are many players who are stronger than him, but there are very few people with higher potential than him. Now, in just over 4 months, the population of Qin Yu's civilization has reached more than 30,000, including 8,000 troops. Is there a shortage of equipment? No shortage. Is there a shortage of food? No shortage. His strength has been raised to a terrifying level in a short period of time. Qin Yu silently glanced at his current civilization combat power and ranking. No 45. Qin Yu civilization / rank. Bronze beginning / number of games. 3 / win rate. 100% / civilization combat power. 139,800 / Lord of Civilization, Qin Yu. The combat power of the civilization has been fully increased to 139,800. It was only about 70,000 last time, and it has nearly doubled in just 1 month. In addition to the extraordinary combat power, there are also reasons for the increase in combat power due to the acceptance of the dog tribe and the establishment of the dragon cavalry camp. The number of newly added troops and the thunder copper spears also account for a large proportion. If we only look at the combat power, Qin Yu can be ranked in the top 20. However, due to the small number of invaded battlefields, he ranks in the top 40. It took Qin Yu less than 2 months to rise from more than 1000 in the war zone to the 45th. But this is only the ranking of the 50th war zone. The more war zones you go forward, the more powerful civilizations there are. Qin Yu can't imagine how high the rank of the players in the first war zone is, and how terrifying their combat power is. Maybe tens of millions, hundreds of millions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions. Maybe the players in that war zone entered the game decades earlier than them. Although the system currently strongly opposes players cross-zone contact and fighting in order to maintain balance. But as long as they are players in the game, they will definitely meet each other. Maybe when there will be no restrictions between war zones. What will happen? It is estimated that the attitude of high-ranking players at that time will be either surrender or die. But Qin Yu has a super golden finger-like civilization Qianqi, so it is naturally impossible for him to give up. On the contrary, the desire to become stronger in the depths of his soul is getting stronger. Build the strongest civilization, control your own destiny, and control the destiny of others. Qin Yu silently set a small goal for himself. Let's start with becoming the first civilization in the 50th war zone. Only by becoming the strongest in the war zone can you have more resources, greater power, and faster development speed in the war zone. Qin Yu's eyes were bright, and a strong desire was ignited in his heart. He must build the strongest civilization, become the strongest master of civilization, and control his own destiny. And the destiny of others. P.S. I have something to do today. Sorry everyone. There are only 2 updates. I will make up for it tomorrow. 4 updates tomorrow, and it's the end of the month. Please vote for me brothers. Backvote. Chapter 147 Queen of Civilization, Violet City. After closing the rankings, Qin Yu found a message reminder in his friend channel. After clicking it, 4 or 5 people actually sent him messages. Legion, Brother Yu, do you have any idea of establishing an alliance? Take me with you. I'm willing to follow your lead. Iron Blood Army Soul / Zhao Xiao Wu, Brother Yu, do you have an alliance you like? Iron Blood Army Soul welcomes you. Han Weian, boss, I want to work with you. Wenzhao, how are you doing recently? Feel free to find me if you need anything. Don't feel burdened by all of us brothers. Violet / Yelena, I admire you very much. Make an offer and join my alliance. Qin Yu was a little stunned when he looked at the information above. 2 small players without an alliance seemed to want to follow him, the newcomer. The 3rd ranked boss wanted to pull him in. The 5th ranked boss expressed his concern for him. The 2nd ranked boss. Hiss. Why does it look like he wants to support him? Listening to the tone. Tut tut tut. What a domineering woman. Qin Yu usually doesn't provoke people casually. In other words, he believes in not provoking others, but if someone takes the initiative to provoke him. Sorry. Hurry up and find someone to collect your body in advance. Qin Yu replied in a friendly manner, and then just as he was about to close the channel, he didn't expect someone to reply immediately. He clicked on it, and saw that it was a 2nd female boss named Lina. Violet / Yelena, if you don't want to join, we can also form an alliance or be friends. In short, it is absolutely stupid to express hostility to a powerful player with unlimited potential and rapid progress. Qin Yu, sure. It's an honor to make friends with you. Violet / Yelena, that's good. My friend, welcome to my civilization, and I will give you a gift that will be very helpful to you. Ding, system prompt. Your friendly Lina has sent you a civilization invitation letter. Helpful gift? Qin Yu sat on the high platform in the meeting hall, his eyes a little dull. It seems that he has to accept this invitation. Players also have interpersonal relationships, and he is the second ranked boss in the entire region. Looking at the food that has been served, Qin Yu stood up and greeted everyone in the meeting hall, and then said, Jiwu and Zua, follow me, and the rest of you continue to eat. After everyone responded, they continued to eat. Jiwu and Zua followed Qin Yu out. Looking at the clothes they wore, they were wearing hard leather armor and had a steel-made 100 refined ring-headed sword on their waists. Both of them looked decent. Qin Yu nodded involuntarily, as long as the appearance was acceptable and not embarrassing. Then he moved his mind and used the invitation letter by default. After Qin Yu used it by default, a strong spatial force instantly condensed in front of him, and then a small azure space door appeared in front of several people. Come in with me, Qin Yu said, and walked in. Jiwu and Zua followed him without hesitation. As the three people entered one after another, the space door disappeared instantly. After the strong dizziness disappeared, Qin Yu's consciousness gradually became clear. When he opened his eyes and looked around, his expression was stunned. Looking in the direction of Qin Yu's astonished eyes, I saw a majestic and beautiful castle in front of me, sitting on a tall hill. The tall castle made of white marble looks majestic and solemn. The Iron Knights guarding the castle soon discovered the three people outside the castle, and then the lock on the city gate slowly fell. A white, elegant, and solemn carriage pulled by 4 white horses left the castle and finally stopped in front of Qin Yu and the other two. A middle-aged man jumped off the carriage. The man had a kind face and was wearing a green silk dress. He looked a bit elegant. Dear guests from afar, please get in the car. We are about to rush to the dinner prepared for you by Her Majesty the Queen herself. Qin Yu blinked slightly in surprise, then got on the carriage and walked in. Then the middle-aged man dressed as a butler drove the carriage slowly into the castle. Jiwu and Zhu followed closely behind while looking around. The carriage quickly passed the drawbridge over the moat and then entered the castle. The scenery inside the castle made Jiwu and the others stare wide-eyed, and even Qin Yu was a little surprised. Exquisite sculptures, unique fountains, and blooming flowers can be seen everywhere. Among them, roses of various colors are the main ones, forming a sea of roses of different colors. As you go deeper, the blooming flowers turn into an endless sea of violets full of fragrance. The entire castle is paved with flat stone slabs, without a single pothole, clean and tidy. Ding, ding, ding. The melodious bell sound echoed throughout the castle. The middle-aged man driving the carriage turned around and smiled slightly and said, "This is a Violet Castle welcoming distinguished guests." Qin Yu nodded slightly. He didn't expect that the woman named Lina was actually dressed quite formally. Even if this castle is taken to the modern times, it is still very beautiful, magnificent, and romantic. It is indeed a woman. Qin Yu couldn't help but sneer. As the carriage drove into the inner city, the number of soldiers patrolling around increased in vain. Many guarding knights wearing airtight exquisite plate armor, holding swords and shields wandered in the inner city. Every 50 people in a team, there are more than 10 teams, which is more than 500 sets of iron plate armor. This is the top armor with super high defense. The cost and time and manpower consumption of making a set are not small, which is enough to see how rich and powerful this big boss ranked second in the war zone is. With the dense friction sound of iron armor and the neat clang footsteps coming from his ears, Qin Yu's face showed envy. This is the gap. His bronze armor has not been made yet, and the big boss's iron armor has developed to the top technology. This is the gap between the ranks. The bronze rank can only get the treasure chest of the bronze beginning level in a fight. Even if you are very powerful, you can only get a bronze treasure chest from 1 star to 5 stars. However, the quality of the treasure chest obtained by players in the silver rank is 1 level higher than that of bronze, and the items obtained are naturally more powerful and effective. As the saying goes, 1 step ahead is always ahead, and the gap between players in the 2 ranks is widened in this way. But Qin Yu is lucky, he has 1 more channel to obtain rewards than others, and he can also obtain the items that silver players can obtain. After figuring it out, the envy on Qin Yu's face faded a lot and soon turned into indifference. After passing the inner city, the castle where Lina, the queen of civilization, lives is in front. Chapter 148, Long-Legged Beauty Player, Conspiracy of Other Alliances. The carriage drove into the white and solemn castle, passed through the gorgeous garden and finally stopped in front of a gorgeous and beautiful Western-style palace. Dear guest, the banquet hall is in front, and your guards can follow you in. The middle-aged man in a green silk dress said respectfully. Qin Yu nodded slightly, stood up and jumped off the carriage, and walked into the luxurious and elegant banquet hall with Jiwoo and ZHU. Starting from the door, the hallway was covered with thick wool carpets, and it felt like walking in the comfortable clouds. Thousands of silver candlesticks stood on both sides, and thousands of scented candles illuminated the hall like daylight. In the center of the spacious and gorgeous hall was a long dining table, which was uniformly covered with lavender velvet and decorated with colorful and fragrant flowers. Two well-dressed maids came over and said gently, "Dear guest, please follow me. Your two guards can eat by themselves." Qin Yu turned his head and nodded slightly to Jiwoo and the others, and then followed a maid in a silk skirt. Qin Yu was led to the banquet table at the back. After passing the long table, it was still a luxurious silk tablecloth. Scented candles were burning on the silver candlesticks, and the tableau was all made of silver. "Please take a seat. Her Majesty the Queen will be here later." The maid smiled and poured a glass of pale white and greenish white wine for Qin Yu. Qin Yu nodded slightly, his eyes revealing surprise. The cup in front of him was a bit like colored glass but more transparent, but a little bit away from glass. He gently picked up the wine glass and took a sip. The taste was sour, with a strong fruity aroma, refreshing in the mouth, from slightly dry to a sweet aftertaste. Qin Yu didn't know much about this kind of wine, but it was really delicious. It seems that this female player named Jelena should be more inclined to Westerners. As Qin Yu sat down, young and beautiful maids began to bring colorful dishes to the table. Red grapefruit crisp apple salad, milky toast, sea salt cheese fries, potato, mushroom, and sausage platter, grilled red shrimp, pan-fried beef short ribs, low-temperature deep-fried tender chicken legs, goose liver fried rice, seafood meat sauce noodles, strawberry mousse cake, carrot cake. Looking at the densely packed delicious dishes on the long table in front of him, Qin Yu's throat rolled and swallowed a big mouthful of saliva. My goodness, is this the life of a big boss? However, for the sake of his image, Qin Yu suppressed his desire and waited for the main character to appear. Just as Qin Yu's eyes were wandering among the crowd swaying in the hall around him, a voice suddenly came to his ears. "Sorry to have kept you waiting." The voice was clear, cold, and faintly contained a hint of gentleness. The voice was slightly high, with a kind of majesty and domineering that could not be disobeyed. Just listening to the voice, a majestic image of being majestic without anger can emerge in the mind. But this voice happened to come from a woman's mouth. Condescending, not to be disobeyed, fearless, a taste of a domineering president. Qin Yu looked up and was slightly stunned. The woman walking in front of him was not wearing any bright and gentle brocade skirt, but a black exquisite armor with many golden patterns carved on it, and some pink gems inlaid in the details. The lower body was a skirt armor, and the whole body occasionally flashed with luster. It seemed that she was not an ordinary thing. Under the skirt armor, there was a pair of slightly plump, slender and delicate legs. White and rosy, Qin Yu called them the best legs in his heart. However, with Qin Yu's determination for being single for 20 years, he was not broken. Looking at the figure of the woman in front of him, she had a slender waist and long legs, thin where it should be thin, moist where it should be moist, and extremely perky where it should be perky. From the bulging armor on her chest, Qin Yu could feel the grandeur and magnificence contained in it. Looking at the woman's appearance, a beautiful golden wave was casually draped over her shoulders. Her eyes were black and white, bright and energetic. Her skin was as white as sheep fat. Her eyebrows were like willow leaves, and the red lips under her high nose bridge did not look charming at all. Although she is wearing a black armor, it is hard to conceal her elegance and grace. Her face is 3 parts heroic and 3 parts heroic, and she has a dignified look that makes people respect her. She is a true queen. Qin Yu was a little surprised when he saw the beautiful woman in front of him who had a strong aura and was very impactful, but he did not lose his manners. He bowed and said, "Hello, my name is Qin Yu, just call me by my name." After Yelena sat down, she saw that he did not show any strange look when he saw her, so she couldn't help but smile slightly. At Qin Yu's surprised expression, she bowed and said, "My name is Yelena. You can call me by my name. You look younger than me, so you can also call me Sister Lina. Don't be surprised. My father is Chinese, so of course I know some Chinese etiquette." Qin Yu smiled and nodded slightly. "Then I will be more familiar and call you Sister Lina." Yelena's beautiful big eyes looked at Qin Yu for a few times and then said, "We will eat and talk at the same time. They are all chefs trained by me and their cooking skills are very good." Qin Yu smiled and said, "Then thank you Sister Lina for your hospitality." As Yelena nodded slightly, Qin Yu began to attack the various delicacies on the table. Yelena on the other side was much more elegant than him and was used to this kind of banquet. "Remember the gift I said would be very helpful to you?" Yelena took a sip of white wine and then spoke. What gift?" Qin Yu swallowed the food in his mouth quickly with great effort and then asked curiously, "The same information about you." Yelena swallowed a mouthful of fruit salad covered with sticky yogurt, stuck out her small and flexible tongue to lick the edge of her mouth, and then said, "There should be a small alliance called Daming Tang near your civilization, and they have some ideas about you." Huh. Qin Yu was stunned for a moment after hearing this, then reacted and said, "You mean, they want to invade my civilization? Why? Should newcomers be bullied?" PFFT, which newcomer has increased his combat power to 140,000 and rushed into the top 50 in the war zone in more than a month after the novice period. Yelena rolled her eyes and then opened her mouth slightly and continued, "I guess they added you as a friend and wanted to invite you to join the alliance, but you ignored it, and then they thought of invading. After all, people in an alliance may be able to annex you, and then they can snatch things that can make you rise quickly and then divide them equally." Qin Yu nodded with admiration. He had to say that Yelena's analysis was correct. Where did Sister Lina get the information? She can actually receive news about other alliances in advance. Seeing Qin Yu's curious eyes, Yelena covered her mouth and smiled, then explained, "I said my father is Chinese, and I learned a lot of useful things from him. Never make enemies with others. If you can't become one with you, then make friends with them. I revealed the information to you, so do you owe me a favor? The more people owe me favors, the more I will give in return. My father calls this casting a wide net. PS. I'm really busy today. I owe you 2 updates. I'll pay it back slowly. Sorry everyone." Chapter 149. This is the reward I have accumulated. You choose. While Qin Yu was eating, he listened to Yelena's description of the strength of the personnel in the damning hall. There are a total of 18 members in the damning hall, but no more than 8 people will invade you. The cohesion of the small alliance is not very high. Are you scared? If you join Violet, no alliance will dare to provoke you. Yelena smiled and looked at Qin Yu with interest. Qin Yu waved his hands repeatedly and said, "I really haven't thought about it yet, Sister Lina, don't joke." Yelena nodded slightly. "Okay, I know you are ambitious, and naturally you will not be willing to give yourself to others. Thank you Sister Lina for understanding." Qin Yu cupped his hands. Yelena nodded slightly and said, "In that case, I will tell you about a few players in Damning Hall who are more threatening to you. Alliance leader Lin Luo, his combat power is about 70,000, with 42 games and a win rate of 58. He has 2 special cavalry, Velociraptor cavalry and Triceratops cavalry. One is positioned as a guerrilla cavalry, and the other is an assault cavalry. The number of Velociraptor cavalry is estimated to be around 500 to 800, and the number of Triceratops cavalry is estimated to be around 300. Apart from that, there is nothing special about him. Dinosaur cavalry? Qin Yu was stunned. Then his world should be a relatively normal primitive era, and there are creatures like dinosaurs. Yelena stared at Qin Yu's eyes for a moment. After not noticing any fear in his eyes, she smiled and continued. Deputy Alliance leader Shidesi traveled through time and became the Goblin King. His combat power is also more than 70,000. He plays a human sea warrior. The Goblin army has more than 10,000 people, and almost all of them are soldiers. But it should not be a big threat to you. Chen Wanzhou, the pioneer of the Alliance, is from the Orc civilization. He currently controls dog-headed people, hyena people, werewolves, etc., with a combat power of more than 80,000. Lin Hongli, the chief of staff of the Alliance, is from the Bronze civilization. His personal strategy is relatively good, his winning rate is more than 60, and his combat power is more than 70,000. The remaining diplomats, scout leaders, and some ordinary members are nothing special. Even the probability that the few people I mentioned can invade you at the same time is very low, but there will be at least 2 of them. Qin Yu bowed his hands in gratitude and said, Sister Lina is righteous. If there is anything in the future, I will help you if I can. Another meaning of Qin Yu's words is that, if it is beyond his ability, he can't help. Perhaps seeing Qin Yu's careful plan, Lina gave him a big roll of the eyes, and then she flicked her hands to the sides, and 7 or 8 cards of different colors appeared out of thin air, and floated on the dining table. Your favor should be bigger. Here are the treasure chest rewards I have accumulated. Choose one. Consider it my support for the development of new people, and it is also a decent gift for friends. Qin Yu laughed and said, Sister Lina, you understand the ways of the world, so I won't be polite. Qin Yu looked at the 7 cards in the air, 3 of which were green and 4 were blue. Qin Yu must want to take the high value ones, but the 2 green cards are also very useful. Resurrection of all things, green, development prop card. After use, it increases the reproduction rate of a certain race in the civilization by 100% and lasts for 1 year. Kizudan skill book, green. After use, you will master the refining method of Kizudan in detail, and your experience will reach the master level. Only for refining Kizudan. These are the 2 green cards that Qin Yu likes. There are also 2 blue cards with good effects. Primary alchemy room, blue. It has 3 alchemy furnaces and an ordinary ground fire, which can refine low level elixirs. Low level fire dragon egg, blue. After dripping blood to recognize the master, watering and feeding blood can accelerate the birth. It is a fantasy extraordinary race, with an upper limit of the 2nd level extraordinary small fire breathing dragon. To be honest, Qin Yu was tempted by any of these 4 cards, especially the fire dragon egg. It was an extraordinary creature. When he grew up, Qin Yu had already imagined himself as a dragon knight. It was exciting to think about it. However, this was actually a secondary choice, because he guessed that, even if this dragon egg was born, it would take a long time to grow from infancy to adulthood, even if its upper limit was only the 2nd level extraordinary. Looking at the prop card of the revival of all things, if it was used by the Black Wolf, then it would go from 2 births a year to 3 births a year. It would also be a good choice for the Dogman tribe. However, in terms of value alone, it was only useful to Qin Yu, but not very useful, because it only lasted for 1 year, and it only increased the reproduction speed. It would not have much effect in a short period of time. The key and blood pill, and the alchemy room gave him a headache. Can he refine the pill without a room? The answer is yes, but it will be very difficult and the yield will not be high. Can you refine it without a chamber? Of course not. So Qin Yu's eyes were erratic, and then he carefully looked at Lina opposite him, and asked a little embarrassedly, Sister Lina, can you pick 2 cards? Puff. Lina looked at Qin Yu's cheeks, and blushed with embarrassment. She found it funny for a moment, and laughed out loud in a somewhat impolite manner. She covered her mouth and laughed twice, then nodded slightly to show her agreement. Hey, you agree now? Lina looked at Qin Yu, and said in surprise, while reaching out and silently putting 2 cards, 1 blue and 1 green, into her pocket. She couldn't help but laugh a little. I can't take yours for nothing. This is for you, Sister Lina. Qin Yu's consciousness moved, and a blue stream of light flew over. Lina was stunned, reached out to take the blue card that flew over, and then checked it. 4 seasons harvest. After using it, the crops and food planted in the cultivated land under the civilization can instantly reach a harvest state. Note, the maximum is not more than 100,000 acres. This item card is interesting. If the world is hit by a natural disaster and no grain is harvested, it will be a precious item to turn the tide. Okay, I accept it. Lina smiled and put the card away. She herself has a secret realm about producing food. Although this is not very useful to her, this card is very helpful in helping her south favors. After all, there are thousands of players in the entire war zone. In fact, it is normal to lack food. Only a small number of people, or farming players and big guys have surplus food. If Qin Yu had not moved millions of kilograms of food from Zaoye, he would probably be in a state of food shortage now. This situation can only be solved after the Four Seasons Fairy Valley is fully developed. However, there will definitely be no shortage of food in the future. The food output of his Four Seasons Fairy Valley, a natural wonder, is higher than that of Yelena's secret realm. After chatting with the beautiful player for a while, Qin Yu got a lot more information about the game. This visit was very rewarding. Chapter 150 Royal Knights Academy, Purple Wonder. Sister Lina, can you give me some white wine? To be honest, it's really good. It tastes really good. Qin Yu laughed. Yelena nodded and waved to a maid. Lina, go to the warehouse and bring some white wine. Yes, your majesty. The maid bowed and turned away. A moment later, several servants of the castle brought barrels of white wine and placed them on the ground. Thank you, Lina, for the opportunity to visit my civilization. Qin Yu looked at the more than 10 barrels of wine on the ground and estimated that there were more than 300 liters. He waved to Yelena with a smile on his face. Goodbye. As soon as the voice fell, a deep blue space door appeared in front of Qin Yu. Jiwoo and the other person pushed the things into the door, and then the three of them jumped into the space door together. As the three left, the deep blue space door disappeared instantly. Yelena's eyes stayed at the position where the space gate disappeared for a long time, and she couldn't help laughing. What a greedy guy. When Qin Yu returned to his own civilization, it was already late at night. Let someone put the things in the warehouse, and then you two go back to rest. Patriarch, you should also rest early. The two touched their round and bulging stomachs and said with satisfaction. They had learned a lot today. The gorgeous castle and the sumptuous dinner made them eat so much that they had difficulty walking. After Qin Yu left, the two called a team of militiamen to move the things into the warehouse in the inner city. The next morning, Qin Yu got up and washed and had breakfast. Then he led people to select a site in the city to place buildings. The first building must be the most important wonder. Qin Yu planned to put it in the inner city. After all, this is the safest place. After the expansion of the outer city, the area of the inner city is much larger than before, so there are many open spaces. Qin Yu finally chose to build the Royal Knights Court at the original location of the east gate of the inner city. After choosing the location, Qin Yu's consciousness moved, and a stream of light flew out of his hand and landed on the ground. After Qin Yu chose to spend 30,000 civilization points to build directly, the open space in front of him exploded with dazzling white light. The surrounding ground continued to shake, and only the sound of ding ding bang bang could be heard in the white light. After about 10 minutes, the white light gradually faded and finally dissipated. A magnificent and elegant building with an area of 3,000 square meters appeared in front of Qin Yu. Royal Knights Academy, Attribute 1, increase the rush speed of cavalry and civilization by 50%. Attribute 2, increase the dodge probability of cavalry and civilization by 50%. Attribute 3, every 1000 civilization points consumed, can permanently increase the collision power of 100 cavalry by 50%. Attribute 4, every 1000 civilization points consumed, can permanently increase the penetration of 100 cavalry by 50%. Attribute 5, train cavalry in the wonder, and the training effect increases by 200%. Wonder benefit, get 50 elementary riding skill books and 50 elementary horse archery skill books every day. Qin Yu was stunned when he looked at the attributes on the building. Damn, this attribute is several times stronger than the giant stone statue, and even comparable to the effect of the Four Seasons Fairy Valley. One is mainly military, and the other is mainly logistics. 5 attributes, respectively, increase the cavalry speed, dodge probability, collision power, horse archery penetration, and double the training effect. However, the collision power and horse archery penetration require additional civilization points. The archer cavalry that focuses on horse archery can spend civilization points to increase the horse archery penetration, and the assault cavalry that focuses on charging can spend civilization points to increase the collision power. Attribute 5, increase the cavalry training effect by 200%. That is, 1 day of training is equivalent to 2 days of training. Although this effect is not as high as the tenfold army training card, it is permanent. Normal cavalry training for 2 years to reach the elite level. With this wonder, only 1 year of training is enough. The longer the time, the more you save. Looking at the wonder income, 50 elementary riding skill books and 50 elementary horse archery skill books are available every day. After using them, you can master elementary riding and elementary horse archery. If the combat effectiveness of the cavalry is not particularly high, 50 cavalry can be produced every day. About 1,500 elementary cavalry in a month, which can save more than half a year of training time. Besides, everything is difficult to get started, and with elementary skill books, you can better familiarize yourself with training skills. After closing the attribute panel, Qin Yu led 2 teams of guards into the Royal Knight's courtyard. The flat stone slabs are surrounded by 2 rows of stables on both sides. The 5 or 6 blue and red buildings in front look like Western churches. There are many training facilities and targets in the central square. The overall look is the most beautiful scenery in Dragon City. Qin Yu even has the idea of moving in. It is 100 times better than his wooden house. After taking the team on a tour, Qin Yu turned around slightly and told the guard beside him, "Send someone to the Wolf Cavalry Training Ground and the Cavalry Training Ground to inform Yu Ming and Ji that the Cavalry Training Ground will be uniformly changed to the Royal Knights Academy in the future." "I understand." The guard folded his hands and turned to leave. After the guard left, Qin Yu also left the Royal Knights Academy with the others. In the remaining time, Qin Yu built the Silk Museum, the large ice cellar, the water mill, and the primary alchemy room. Except for the water mill, all the buildings were placed in the inner city. The temperature of the large ice cellar to condense and freeze requires 1,000 civilization points per month, but it can store 10 million kilograms of materials, which is very cost effective. The Silk Museum can produce about 1,000 kilograms of silk fabrics per month, which can be used to make clothes, and the economic value is also very high. The primary alchemy room has no effect. It can simply refine primary elixirs. When the 3 alchemy furnaces are running at full speed a day, it can probably make hundreds of pills, but the number of wear and tear is not calculated. To place the water mill, Qin Yu took a carriage to the side of Nanu Lake. As a stream of light flew to the lakeside, a huge building instantly appeared in front of everyone, located on the lake and the shore. The huge 3-dimensional wheel lies on the water surface, using water power to grind crops into powder. It can grind more than 1,000 kilograms of flour or something in a day of full operation. Go back. After Qin Yu placed the building, he got on the carriage and took the team back. A day passed in the blink of an eye. In the evening, Qin Yu gave another 2-hour class at the Internal Affairs School. The cultural level of more than 50 people also improved by leaps and bounds after learning one class after another. Today's class ends here. Everyone, review today's content carefully. In the future, you will all be the pillars of the dragon tribe. Qin Yu smiled and encouraged, then turned and left the school. P.S. I went to the hospital to see my eyes today, which delayed the time. I owe 3 more chapters and I will return them slowly. Sorry brothers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.